Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Ah, come on Toussaint, one more bowl please? I'm sorry son, but your mother will be very mad at me if we ruin your appetite too much. Now come on, we have to talk about a few things, Naruto. The Yondaime Hokage knew that this might turn out badly, but he just had to talk to Naruto about this. Oh, alright Toussaint. Turning his head, Naruto shouted back over his shoulder, thanks Tucci-san. The ramen was amazing as always. Said man chuckled at the young boy's antics and merely waved him away. Naruto and his father walked through the village at a slow pace, often waving to those they knew and smiling or nodding towards those they didn't and whom politely greeted them on their travels. By the end of it all, Naruto was almost wiped out from all the effort he had had to exert not to scowl. Who would have thought being polite to people would be so annoying and hard? Naruto certainly hadn't and looked up to his father in amazement when he barely showed any signs of fatigue. Stopping at a small wooden bench that overlooked a tiny creek in a more secluded portion of Konoha's park, both males sat down and silence reigned from there. Naruto for his part simply watched and listened to the water going along its merry way, enjoying the atmosphere about him. His father on the other hand was extremely nervous due in part to the information that he had to impart upon his son who would most certainly not take to it kindly. Finally breaking the silence, knowing he had to get this over with, the fourth said, "Naruto, I have to tell you something and you're not going to like it at all." Turning his head, said 6-year-old blinked up at his father owlishly, the question coming a moment later, "What do you mean, Toussaint?" Namikaze Minato just sighed, slumping within his seat as he tried in vain to think of some way to possibly lighten the words he was about to say. Might as well just say it, he thought. Starting as before he said, "Naruto, I can't allow you to be there when your little sister is born. It would be too dangerous for you, so you have to stay at home and wait for us." Naruto was shocked at this news, his eyes widening to that they might actually pop out of his head. Shock quickly grew into anger at what his father had just told him and he immediately got up out of his seat, staring straight at his father in anger. "What? I'm not allowed to see my baby sister when she's born? Why not? You know I've been waiting for this for 9 months. 9 months. You can't do this." Minato sighed again and shook his head. "I know you have Naruto, but it's still too dangerous and I can't risk your safety. You have to understand and do what I say." Naruto just glared at Minato who, even though he felt the pure anger rolling off the boy, didn't back down from the stare, meeting the icy blue orbs with those of his own. "How can it be dangerous? Ka-chan is only having a baby. What's so dangerous about that? There are just some things that you don't know or could understand right now. You have to trust me on this, but no matter what you will stay at home," said Minato, feeling ashamed of what he was saying, but knowing he needed to all the same. Putting Naruto in such a risky situation would not sit well on him and would prove that he was a bad parent if he did so. Like Naruto, Kushina had been furious with the suggestion, having wanted their only son to be there at her side while she brought his new sister into the world. The great Yondaime Hokage, the deciding factor in the Third Great Shinobi War, and one of the strongest shinobi ever to grace the planet, had cowered in a corner the whole time with his hands flashing before him rapidly to try and placate his red-faced, angry wife who had cornered him like predator after its prey. After a thorough beating and one explanation later, Kushina had had to agree, albeit grudgingly, and had somewhat accepted the fact that they would be leaving their son behind at home. Compared to Kushina, Naruto was nowhere near as frightening for Minato and he would prove it. Before Naruto began his next rebuttal, the left hand of Namikaze Minato was raised, all signs of regret gone from his handsome and smooth face, all replaced with the stern expression of the fourth Hokage. Naruto took in his now colder than ice gaze directed solely on him and gulped, instantly realizing that the blonde man was serious now and he would do well to shut up at this point. Before him was not his father but the leader of their village, the fourth Hokage, fourth ruler of Konohagakure no Sato. "Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto, you will not be going to that birth and that is final. You will listen to me and there will be no buts about it. The situation is too dangerous for you and this is only for your own safety. Is that understood?" Naruto felt tears coming to his crystal blue eyes, his entire body shaking from the feelings welling up deep within him. He grumbled out a response and when the response was not heard, was told to speak up. "Hi Hokage-sama, I understand and will not go to Ka-chan's birth. I will stay home and nothing else. I'm sorry, Hokage-sama. The hard face began to instantly melt away as Minato saw the hurt expression on his son's face. He quickly realized his mistake in transferring over to the Hokage glare, and he sighed, hanging his head low in shame for causing his son's current condition. Reaching out, he flinched when he saw the quick jerk of Naruto's body, as if trying to jerk away from something vile, and bile rose into his mouth. He needed to try and fix the situation fast. Listen, Naruto, I'm sorry for what I just did. I am the Yondaime Hokage of this village, but before that I am your father. I should not have used that tone, and for that I am sorry. You have to understand that as a father, I don't want my little man to get hurt in any way if I have any say in it. I do in this case, and you could seriously get hurt or worse if you went with us. I would never forgive myself if that happened. Naruto sniffled in response, the back of his hand finding his nose before failing miserably in getting the small amount of snot out of his face. It's okay, Toussaint. I understand and will do what you say. Just please, bring everyone home safe. Smiling down at his son, Minato stood up and placed a consoling hand on his son's shoulder, noting this time he didn't flinch away. I will make sure I bring everyone home safe. That's a promise. Seeing the honesty in his father's face, the smile that always spoke truth rather than deceit, Naruto bobbed his head in a gesture of acceptance. Okay, Toussaint, I believe you. Can we go home now? Of course we can, Naruto. Taking Naruto's hand in his own, the Yondaime Hokage guided his only son out of the park, the hint of sadness still plaguing the boy's face. However, there was also a hint of acceptance, for, while both weren't thrilled with the decision, both knew it had to be done. 1 week later, the family was sitting in their living room, the adults looking down at their small, blonde son as he worked over the very basics of the art of fuinjutsu. Due to both being masters in the craft, they had wanted to share their knowledge with their son, and from what they could see, he was a born natural for it. The way he painted his kanjis, albeit slowly, looked almost like a beautiful dance as they watched the brush dance across the paper. The kanjis perfect with not a single error in their make. To say the two parents were proud could be construed as an understatement, and they pondered if they had another master of fuinjutsu on their hands if the way he acted towards the art was anything to go by. It was at that moment, while the three were just enjoying the atmosphere and good company, that a small breeze was felt coming from the open window on the house's south-facing side. All turning their heads, they all saw a silver-haired man whose hair seemed to counter even gravity itself, and a dark blue mask that concealed the lower portion of his face. He sat there, one leg bent and propped up while the other just hung off the other side of the window. With an orange book in hand and his visible eye looking remarkably lazy, Kakashi no Sharingan sat there giving only a yo in greeting. Both Minato and Naruto smiled at the scene and were about to respond to his greeting with ones of their own, but were stopped short when they all heard the loud stomping of one Uzumaki Namikaze Kushina making her way over towards the sitting figure. Both males of her family couldn't see it, but Kakashi, being the one under the woman's gaze, shivered as he saw fire burning in her eyes and a face that perfectly matched the color of her dark, red hair. Gulping, he waved at her. Hello, Kushina-san. It's nice to see you again. Knowing what was coming, Naruto and Minato began to shake their heads. They silently saluted their brave comrade who had ventured into the lion's den with the worst food of all, that little orange book known to the world as the Icha Icha series, the most perverted of all books, filled to the brim with smut brought to you by an old pervert they all knew and lovingly despised. Poor Kakashi. He had only recently started reading the books, drowning his sorrows away into the pages. Kushina was having none of that "hello Kushina-san" crap, and with Kakashi being stunned and afraid for his life, the man who normally could avoid any strike due to his Sharingan that at the moment was covered up, went wide-eyed as said book was yanked out of his grip and tossed across the room to create a small impression into the wall just a foot away from Minato's face. The blonde man quickly realizing he could have been killed from the force of the throw if it had hit him. You think you can come in here with that book and not get reprimanded for it, Kakashi? You and that old pervert will rue the day you came into my life with such perverted smut. Now what do you have to say for yourself, mister? While this was going on, Naruto had turned and had initially been reaching for the orange book that had slid to the floor. However, his wrist was immediately snatched up and held from proceeding any further by his father, who leaned over and whispered urgently, "Never, and I mean never, let your mother see you with one of those. It will be the death of you and possibly me." Naruto gulped and slowly retracting his hand, stared at the book one last time before turning back to the comical scene of Kushina throttling poor Kakashi, who had seemed to have gone slack under her brutal retaliation. After many minutes and Kushina finally settling down to say hello and offer a smile to Kakashi, they all sat back down, Kakashi now nursing a sore neck while watching in horror as Kushina burnt the orange book to a crisp right before his very eyes. Being the prodigy that he was, the teenager knew not to try and save the now charred remnants of his book or else feel the wrath of the red-hot-blooded habanero once again. From there they all made small talk while also observing Naruto's fuinjutsu work that he had returned to after the brief interruption. Kakashi was very impressed with what he was seeing so far and gave his own little pointers now and again since he too knew a thing or two about fuinjutsu. It was in this happy moment that both hell and heaven decided to meet as one and strike the poor family. Feeling a tight, rippling pain across her stomach, Kushina immediately hissed at the sudden and surprising pain and instantly knew what it was from. Turning to her husband, she gripped her swollen belly tightly and nodded to him. "It's time, Minato-kun." Hearing this, said man began to freak out, but with a hit to the back of the head courtesy of his wife, he quickly composed himself better and giving a whistle, two Anbu members appeared before their lord. After informing them to fetch Sarutobi Bawako, wife of 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, they left him. Waiting a few minutes with Kushina experiencing a few more contractions, they all heard a knock on the door. Opening it, they saw Bawako herself standing there and looking back towards his wife. Minato nodded in her direction, silently informing her that it was time to go. Kushina nodded back before turning her gaze onto her small son. Smiling down at him, she bent her knees to try and get as close to eye level with him as she could since her large stomach refused to allow her to get on her knees. "Naru-chan, I have to go now, but I'll see you later with your new baby sister. I wish I could take you with me, but it is still too dangerous. I know you're going to be an awesome big brother and she is going to love you so much, just as much as your father, and I love you too. We'll see you in a few hours." Naruto gazed up at her, a small amount of worry evident in his easily readable eyes. Getting up, he gently encircled her waist with his arms and nuzzled her stomach as if sharing his love with both her and his soon-to-be new sister. "I love you both too, Ka-chan. I can't wait to see my sister, so hurry back." With tears in her eyes, Kushina bent over and kissed the top of his head before guiding him over to the open door where Minato and Bawako stood waiting. Wrapping his arms around his son in an affectionate gesture, Minato then ruffled his hair. "You're the man of the house until we get back. I will keep my promise to you, so don't be sad." After getting an affirmative nod, Minato rose and taking Kushina's arm in his, guided her out the house. Naruto watched them go as he stared out the window, seeing Kushina stop to ask a woman Naruto knew as Uchiha Makoto something. When he heard a faint laugh, he sighed and turned around to face the one remaining figure in the room. Kakashi, seeing the saddened expression on the blonde's face, sighed and moving over to him placed a hand on his back. "Come on. Let's go get something to eat. And yes, we can have ramen." Seeing some of the sadness drain from the boy, Kakashi couldn't help but smile, knowing that no amount of money he might spend that night was equal in comparison to the happiness of the young, blonde boy before him. Naruto had just finished off his 10th bowl of ramen, astounding all those present beside Tuchi, his daughter Ayame, who was roughly the same age as Naruto, and Kakashi, who had known that his wallet would be significantly lighter after that night. Slurping up the last of his broth and wiping his face with the back of his hand, Naruto gave a satisfied exhalation of breath and grinned towards the ramen chef. "Amazing as always, Tuchi-san." As always, the older man just beamed at the compliment from his favorite customer. Getting up from his stool, Naruto made his way out of the shop and deciding to follow, Kakashi was about to leave as well when he heard the clearing of someone's throat and turned around, saw Tuchi holding out his hand waiting for his payment. Grumbling softly to himself about Uzumaki's and their damn bottomless stomachs, he coughed over the money and exited the shop. Upon leaving and looking about for Naruto, his visible eye immediately opened as wide as can be at the sight before him. There, talking animatedly with Naruto wearing a tight, green, latex outfit was none other than the eccentric Might Guy. What scared Kakashi even more was the fact that in the teen's hands was a second latex outfit that was flowing with the wind in all its terrible, atrocious glory. Immediately racing over, Kakashi grabbed Naruto by the arm and began trying to drag him away, not wanting him to get any bright ideas with that horrible outfit. "Kakashi, my rival, how are you on this youthful night?" yelled out the loud mic guy as he stopped the pair from wandering off. "Oh we're doing fine guy. I just need to get Naruto home so that we can go over a bit more of Fuinjutsu," answered Kakashi quickly, trying to escape the current situation. Naruto just watched the event unfolding before him and was still looking at the green outfit he had been offered in curiosity when he heard Guy reply directed towards him. "Fuinjutsu? Such a youthful art Fuinjutsu is. You must be filled with youth, young Naruto-kun. I should come along too to watch your youthful practice." Kakashi was behind Guy, who had raced over to stand beside Naruto and was furiously waving his hands in front of him, trying to get Naruto to just say no to the man's request. Naruto, taking note of Kakashi, was about to answer when everyone felt a sudden presence, a terrible and vile pressure that pressed down on all. Immediately alert, the Junin and Chunin looked around, wondering where the pressure was originating from, but snapped their heads around when they heard the soft and sorrow-filled voice of Naruto. "Ka-chan?" Both boys knew of Kushina's upcoming pregnancy as well as her status as a Jinchuriki, so upon hearing this, both older boys knew something must have happened. Guy, being the faster of the two, raced off towards the Hokage Tower where many others would be gathering for information. Kakashi turned towards Naruto and quickly walked over to him. Placing a hand on his shoulder, he said, "Naruto, I'm sure your parents are fine, but right now we need to get you to..." It was here that all hell broke loose in the village because out of nowhere appeared the very figure that was feared by all in the elemental nations. A Biju, and most importantly of all, the most powerful of them all. The Kyuubi no Yuko, nine-tailed demon fox. The great beast, its muscles rippling under the thick orange fur that covered its body, stood for a moment before suddenly sending one of its great paws forward, destroying a building to smithereens with just strength alone. Standing atop the wreckage, the Kyuubi surveyed the area around it, nose flaring before it slitted. Dark red eyes fell upon the small, blonde-haired boy near the ramen shop. Terrified under the gaze he was receiving, Naruto shivered uncontrollably and his fright increased tenfold when the beast spoke. "You, boy." Kakashi moved faster than he had ever done in his entire life. Wrapping Naruto in his arms, he began a furious sprint away from the area, away from the menacing nine-tailed beast staring fixatedly in their direction. When the beast began to channel chakra into its mouth, forming a small purple-hued ball that seemed to vibrate with power, Kakashi knew he wouldn't escape this and muttered, "Shit," knowing his life was at its end and more importantly the life of the small boy in his arms. The Kyuubi let loose its condescend ball of chakra, its Bijudama, tailed beast bomb, and sent it hurtling towards the pair, trying in vain to get away from the attack. Right as it was about to hit, with Kakashi thinking his life forfeit, the air seemed to ripple, black markings expanding out from a single point and seemed to literally suck the huge purple bomb until nothing existed but a few wisps of smoke. Off in the distance, everyone heard the huge explosion, its bluish-white aura lighting the night sky for a few seconds before slowly fading away back to darkness. Naruto looked up, his face having been buried in Kakashi's flak jacket, and felt his body stiffen and his eyes go wide, for there, standing before them, with his white and red trimmed haori flowing about him, stood Namikaze Minato in all his splendid glory. The man looked first at the enraged Kyuubi before turning his head to glance back at his son. One lone tear escaped Minato's fire-lit face, and what Naruto heard next would deeply haunt him for the rest of his life. "I'm sorry, Naruto, I couldn't keep my promise," and then giving his son one last, sorrow-filled look, he turned his gaze back onto the rage-filled beast before him. Right as he was about to attack the demon, a thick adamantine staff burst into existence and plowed into the side of the Kyuubi, sending it away and crashing into the forest beyond. A split second later, the third Hokage appeared in a flicker, accompanied by 4 of his personal Anbu. Minato smiled sadly to the older man and spoke up, "I'm glad you could join us. I'll take care of everything now. Please protect the village." With a yellow flash he was gone, leaving behind grim-faced men. Turning to Kakashi, Hiruzen bellowed out, "Kakashi, get young Naruto back to his home and keep him safe. That is your mission and you will not fail." Kakashi saluted his superior smartly and, shifting his eyes to his young charge, felt a lump rise in his throat as he saw the scene. Naruto was on both knees, his arms limply hanging from his side as he stared at the place where his father had been just moments before. The look Minato had given had been permanently imprinted into his brain along with the words associated with it. 2 streams of tears cascaded down his face as he shook, sadness filling his soul to the brim, and anyone listening would have felt their hearts wrench as they heard the soft, almost inaudible words spoken, "To-san, Ka-chan." Kakashi moved over and gently lifted Naruto once again into his arms. From there he jumped atop the rooftops to the boys' home. Kakashi, who had always held the same indifferent and detached look after the loss of his 2 teammates, who never seemed to show any form of emotion, who always seemed to feel empty inside, now cried. He wept openly as he moved deeper into the village, feeling no shame in doing so, a river of tears flowing down from his exposed eye as he jumped from rooftop to rooftop. Ever since his father had died, ever since his 2 friends had died during the war, Kakashi had only found solace and love in life from his sensei's family. They were all he had left in this world. His friends were there of course, but for Kakashi, Minato had always been like a father after his own had passed away. If anything happened to them, he would almost certainly break apart from grief. Sprinting across the rooftops, Kakashi held the 4th's legacy, a boy that was much a son to the 4th as a brother for Kakashi, and he would be damned if he didn't protect him with his life. The great Kyuubi was beyond enraged at the moment. His body was wrapped tightly beneath layer upon layer of glowing metal chains that didn't seem to budge one bit even with all the force he put into trying to break them. Before him stood the 2 simple humans he had grown to despise over the years. One was dying, lying there with her arms wrapped around the tiny bundle of her daughter. The second was flashing through hand seals so fast that even an accursed Uchiha would not be able to keep up, performing the numerous seals required to perform the Reaper Death Seal. Why does she have to be sacrificed? For the tailed beast balance, for the country, for the village. And why do you have to sacrifice yourself, for my sake? What about Naruto? How will he feel being left behind? Cried the woman, who then immediately began to pant under all the effort. To forsake one's country and one's village is the same as forsaking one's own child. You whose birth nation is no more know that all too well. How harsh life is for those without a land to call home, besides which our family, Naruto included, are ninja. At this Minato paused, letting Kushina think over the words. Finally, even if I were to live, I'd lose out to you, and this surprised Kushina. Even though you won't have much time with her, there are things only you can tell Rina, things that I can't. She would never understand me. That is a mother's role. So I'm not doing this just for you, I'm doing it for Rina and Naruto. I will die for my children. It is my duty as their father. With that, Minato whirled around, facing the Kyuubi head-on. With a swipe of its hand, the death god shot its hand through Minato's soul and in turn his body, the hand shooting forward to grab at the Kyuubi's paw and its very essence beneath. Yelling out, Minato finally completely the ceremony. Fuin! And with this exclamation, half of the Kyuubi's very being began to be dragged away from its body, forming a ball of pure chakra before rocketing through the air and straight into the stomach of Minato. Minato stumbled back, the force of the hit forcing him back. After the initial experience was over and Minato's body had snapped back from the chakra roiling inside him, a seal formed upon his stomach. My body's going numb. I can't believe how heavy its chakra is. Throughout this moment, the Kyuubi's body began to shrink in size, becoming half of what it had truly been, and it roared out in protest. The chakra chains from Kushina still held it in place, but they appeared to be much looser than before. Why you, Yondaime Hokage? The beast roared at the man who had turned his back on it and began to slowly and painfully walk over towards his wife sitting on the ground. Quote, all right, now for the 8-sign sealing, to seal the rest of 9 tails inside Rina. Dropping to his knees, he pushed his hand to the ground and summoning a small, pillow-clad pedestal surrounded on all sides by burning candles, took his daughter from Kushina and laid her down upon the small surface. A ritual altar. Quickly realizing the Hokage's intent and using all of its strength and with the chains slacking due to Kushina's decreasing health, the Kyuubi struck out, rising high in the air with its paw shooting forward intent on killing the babe then and there so as to stop the ritual from being completed. Their forms reacting on instinct, both Minato and Kushina diving in front of the impending attack and taking the extended claw for their child. They felt it pierce through both their bodies, barely avoiding hitting Rina as well, and instantly began to puke up blood from several of their organs being all but destroyed. I said I was their father. Dying for Naruto and Rina is my right. I'm their mother, it's my right too. Kushina replied instantly, panting harshly and trying to draw breath into her lungs. I guess, this is the end of the line for both of us. Minato nodded and grabbed her shoulder. Forming a single seal with the other, intent on putting both their chakras into the seal, he finally responded once everything was complete. Okay, that should do it. Kushina, I am starting the 8-sign sealing now. We won't be able to see her for a while, with the way the seal is set up. Kushina began to softly weep, thinking that all she could have said would never be. Sensing this, Minato asked, do you have enough chakra to make a clone? If you do, I can make one too, and we can flash them back to the house where we can settle our affairs with our children. Of course, I always have chakra, remember? And after that weak attempt at humor formed the necessary hand sign, and out of the smoke emerged a perfect copy of herself. After Minato had done the same, both clones disappeared in a bright flash. They stood there then, trying to give as much advice as they could in that moment to Rina, with her mother speaking most of the time, putting her heart into every word she spoke. Finally, she ended her small speech with a soft, Rina, there'll be plenty of hard and painful times ahead. Take care of yourself. Make sure to have dreams, to have the confidence, to make those dreams come true. And remember that Naruto and both of us are always watching over you. She then grasped Minato's hand tightly, pouring her own feeling into the grip while sobbing out, so much. There's so much. There really is. So much I want to tell you. I want to be with you and Naruto longer. I love you both so much. Turning to her husband, she said guiltily, I'm sorry, Minato, I talked too much. No, it's all right. Rina, my words to you as your father is ditto to what your loquacious mother said. Love your brother. I know he will always protect you. With those last words, Minato finally said, 8-sign sealing. With those 3 words, both Minato and Kushina closed their eyes, feeling the claw impaling their stomachs dissolve into simple chakra before the final half of the Kyuubi's essence flowed into the seal on Rina, and with that was gone from sight. Their 2 bodies fell to the ground, lifeless and still, with both their arms pointed towards Rina as if begging to stay with her. Hiruzen, having been forced to watch from the side due to the barrier set up by Kushina, leapt onto the scene and stood before the 3. He stared sadly down at the 2 prone figures and finally to the crying body of their daughter. Shaking his head, he sighed and bowed deeply towards the 2 with utmost respect and pride, calling Anbu to take the bodies while he took the babe back to her home and her waiting older brother. It was many hours later that Naruto finally awoke. His body and mind had taken a psychological beating, and within Kakashi's arms had blacked out from the inner turmoil. Now the young boy flicked his eyes open and slowly got up, his head lazily looking about and wondering why he was back in his room. Then, as if the sleep had been holding the memories at bay even from his dreams, the terrible incident that had occurred returned to Naruto. His vision lost focus, and once again he was reliving the moments prior to his mother leaving, following quickly by the appearance of his father before him, informing him that he had broken his promise. Yet again Naruto broke down, tears filling his eyes before rolling down his face and soaking the blanket he held up to it. His chest hurt, his heart feeling as though it was being constricted from within, and trying to relieve the pressure he pressed his hands to his chest, his fingers grabbing and tearing at his shirt in his efforts. He was short of breath, his breath coming out ragged. Burying his face into his pillow, he screamed his heart out, his spine arching, fists beating at the bed beneath him, muffling his bellows of pain and grief, for with the influx of memories came the knowledge that something awful had happened, something to make even his father cry. After many long minutes of weeping, Naruto finally managed to control himself. It was then he heard quiet talking in the room beyond and wondered if his parents were back, if his dread and fear were all for naught. Jumping out of bed, he raced over towards the door and, running as fast as he could down the hallway, he slid precariously into the living room. The 2 figures inside were not his parent, which saddened Naruto greatly. Leaning back against a nearby wall with his arms crossed was Kakashi, lone eyes showing the great sadness he was feeling concerning the news he had just received. The other member of the room, smoking his pipe slowly and sitting on the couch, was the 3rd Hokage, who glanced up as he saw Naruto standing there. "Oh my dear boy, how are you? the third Hokage asked, genuinely curious as to how the boy felt after seeing the Kyuubi up close and personal like that. The memory alone was enough to make many people go insane from just the pure terror that the beast could instill. Naruto ignored the question and gave the previous Hokage an icy yet fearful glare. "Where to-san and Ka-chan?" Sighing, Hiruzen just rubbed at his eyes, small traces of tears filling in at the corners. "Naruto, there is no easy way to tell you this. Tonight was a hectic time for all of us, and within that time there were many heroes who lived and many heroes who gave up their lives. Your parents were part of the second group, for in doing so, they knew that they were protecting the village and more importantly you." There it was. There was the truth he had sought. His parents were dead. The parents he had loved for 6.5 years, the parents that had cared for him, looked after him, the parents that had loved him possibly even more than he them, were dead. He couldn't take it. He couldn't take or accept the thought that his parents would no longer wish him good luck at the academy in the mornings, would no longer help him with his mediocre skills in Fuinjutsu, would no longer be here with him. Who would love him now? Who would he love now? He just couldn't take it. The boy broke down then, and Kakashi immediately moved to Naruto's side, crouching to one knee and guiding the blonde's face gently into his flak jacket. The man wasn't very skilled in consoling people and had dealt with personal issues stoically alone rather than get help from others. Still he tried. "It's all right, Naruto. Don't be ashamed to cry. It's all right to feel sad right now, and I completely understand, trust me. The loss of one's parents or any loved one is hard, but let me ask you this. Would your mother and father really want you to be crying over them?" And he waited for a small shake of the boy's head before continuing. "No, they wouldn't. They'd want you to put a smile on your face and grow up big and strong just like your father and as kind as your mother. You know that." Kakashi held the boy close, gently rocking him for several minutes, the only sound in the room being the sound of weeping. Hiruzen looked down sadly at the boy, someone he had come to look at as a grandson of sorts. This was a terrible loss for the now poor orphan, for the pain of losing one parent was great, but the pain of losing both at the exact same time was excruciating. He would know. He had experienced the same in the First Great War when his parents had been sent out on a scouting mission and had never returned, later to be informed of their ultimate demise at the hands of Kumo shinobi. After several long minutes, Naruto seemed to have calmed down enough, the sound of his crying diminishing into soft whimpers. Realizing that the boy needed something in his life, something to hold onto, Kakashi carefully removed Naruto's head from his jacket until he was staring down into the boy's face. His nose was dripping, his cheeks were red, but most of all those oh-so-expressive eyes, the same eyes as his father, showed the pain, showed the insurmountable sorrow he was dealing with and would continue to deal with for quite some time to come. "Naruto?" Kakashi started gaining the boy's attention. "I need to show you something. Are you up for it?" The blonde blinked at that, his overloaded mind barely comprehending the words. Finally, after the words had sunk in, Naruto nodded. Seeing this, Kakashi rose slowly, taking Naruto's hand in his own. From there, all three, Kakashi, Naruto, and Hiruzen, moved down the small hallway and stopped just short of the guest room at the end of it. Placing a finger to his lips, Kakashi bid Naruto to be silent before he quietly opened the door, moving in with Naruto and Hiruzen trailing behind the masked man. The room was dark, bare besides a bed, closet, and what appeared to be a crib set in the far right corner. It was here Kakashi guided the boy, placing a hand on his back and pushing him towards the crib. When Naruto had gotten close enough, his height barely giving him enough to see over the edge, he suddenly gasped at what he saw. There before him, wrapped in a small blanket with her eyes closed but a contented smile adorning her lips, was a small baby quietly sleeping. Glancing sharply up at Kakashi, the man responded to the silent question. "She's your sister, Naruto. Her name is Uzumaki Namikaze Rina. She looks just like Ka-chan. She has the red hair too," Naruto said, somewhat in a daze and seeming to just be rambling to himself. Needing to get a better look, wanting to get a better look, he carefully pulled himself up so that he was leaning over Rina, staring down at her with his big blue eyes. He couldn't take it. Seeing his sister there while their parents had died, leaving them orphans, made him just break down anew, and without meaning to, the tears began to fall from his face onto Rina. Naruto's breath hitched as he saw this, and his brotherly instincts took over for the time being. Drawing back and hopping back down onto the floor, hoping he had not woken up the babe, He wiped his face and turned to the two figures who were simply watching him at this point. Knowing the boy would have questions, Hiruzen smartly guided them out of the room, noiselessly shutting the door except for the barest of clicks. Turning back to Naruto, he waited for the questions to come, to which they did only moments after leaving the room, the words coming out hushed and with an undertone of concern. "What do I do?" "Don't worry, Naruto-kun. I will send someone over who will watch over her. But there are a few more things you have to know before we go." "Naruto, where do you think the Kyuubi went?" asked the Hokage, giving the boy a hard and calculating gaze, wanting to know his answer and see how he reacted with the next bit of news he must impart. "Didn't Toussaint kill it? That's why it isn't here anymore?" Naruto questionably asked the Hokage more specifically. "No, Naruto, your father did not kill the demon. There is just no possible way to actually destroy a demon. I know you're starting to learn about chakra, so I will just say simply it is a being made up entirely of chakra. One cannot kill something that technically is not living. No. The only way to get rid of a demon is to seal it somewhere where it won't hurt people." "And where did Toussaint seal it?" Naruto curiously asked, wanting to know what could possibly hold a demon. "I'm sorry, Naruto. Your father decided the only true place to seal the Kyuubi was within your sister. Since he didn't feel comfortable stealing someone else's child, and you knowing how he is, you can understand why he would give up his own child for this. But he did leave express wishes for her to be treated as a hero for the sacrifice. I will try my best to make sure his wishes come true." Naruto was stunned speechless, but the shock of it all quickly passed, and in its place remained the totally serious demeanor that marked the protective instincts of an older brother. "And she is not the demon?" "Good heavens, no." Hiruzen hastily responded, not wanting him to get any ideas. "She has it stored in a seal inside of her, but she is definitely not the demon. This is your sister, your one and only sister. This raises another point I have to make. The other villagers might not see her as such and only see the demon, so there may be attempts on her life. I will keep a squad of my men here 24/7 around your house so that she is given the protection needed. I will not allow her to come to harm." "Neither will I. She is my little sister and I will protect her no matter what," replied Naruto firmly and without hesitance, the set of his jaws and the flash of his eyes showing his conviction. Clapping him on the shoulder with pride, Hiruzen smiled down at the blonde. "That's the spirit. And if you want to protect her even better, you should focus on your schoolwork and growing up to be a fine young ninja. But remember this, and remember this well." Hiruzen's voice lowered significantly. "No matter how strong you are, there are always those out there that are stronger still, so know that there is never a complete guarantee that even at your best it is enough. Train with the thought of always needing to improve. Never let your best truly be your best. Always train like that, for, with someone to protect, anyone no matter the situation can grow stronger because of it. There's nothing you can't accomplish if you do." It was after this that all decided to get some rest, and both giving the boy a hug, Kakashi and Hiruzen quickly departed the house, leaving behind two new orphans, young boy and his newly born baby sister. It had only been a week since the Kyuubi attack, and already life was very different for Naruto. The very first day after that terrible night, the house was plagued with attacks on an almost hourly rate, people demanding for the death of the demon child, and only with the help of the family's Anbu guard was Rina not hurt in all of this. While all of this was going on, Naruto had to deal with one attempted murder by the woman sent to take care of the family. Naruto had discovered her with a small knife concealed under a blanket and quickly called on Anbu to stop the situation before it had even started. All the property and belongings of the now deceased parents had gone to Naruto and his sister. Going through all the rooms, Naruto had then discovered two envelopes neatly beside one another on his parents' bed. Upon reading his father's letter, he had begun to cry, and upon the second from his mother he had broken down in both happiness and sorrow. "Dear Naruto, if you are reading this, then I did not survive the fight against the Kyuubi as I thought. I managed to use the last bit of my chakra to form a clone to write this letter, so please pay attention to what I have to say. I sit here writing, thinking about your beautiful mother clutching our angelic daughter and your sister, and know that I would happily give my life for them. It is the job of a father to protect his family, and if he has to make the ultimate sacrifice for them, he would gladly do so. Under the circumstances I have done just that, and my only regret is leaving you behind without your parents. Know that, I am extremely sorry that I had to leave you in such a way, but remember that family and friends are everything. Do not go through life fearing, but be brave and strive to protect those you love and cherish. I know life will be hard for you right now, but you have to be a strong man and fight through it all. I know you can. I believe in you. Now with what I am doing, I will be leaving your sister holding a great burden on her shoulders. Please tell her that I love and loved her with all my breaking heart as I write this letter. If there were any other way to rid us of the Kyuubi, I would have gladly done so. Since there is not, I have to simply ask this. How could I sacrifice someone else's child when I cannot do so with my own? It would be barbaric for me to do so, and I cannot stand that, so I sealed the Kyuubi within her, believing that, after looking after you for these 6 long years, she would be able to handle it herself, and with you to help I'm sure she will. Both you and her mean the world to me, and I could not live with myself if something bad were to happen to the both of you. That is why I warn you now. The night of the Kyuubi attack was no coincidence. There was a man within the shadows of it all, but do not go telling this to anyone besides the current Hokage. He had on a mask with an orange spiral, and surprising of all, he had the Sharingan within the lone eye hold on the mask. I know it may sound preposterous and confusing to you, but tell the Hokage that I believe the masked man behind summoning the Kyuubi into our village was none other than Uchiha Madara. Be wary in the future, for he might come to strike again and regain possession of the Kyuubi, putting Rina in grave danger. That is why you must practice hard and become the best ninja you can possibly be. I believe in you as I always have, and believe you will rise to the occasion and protect your sister. There is so much more I wish to tell you, Naruto, about how proud I am to be your father, about how you mean so much to me, but I'm running out of chakra and can't write it all down. Grow up big and strong. Your mother and I will be watching over both you and Rina for so long as you may live, and will gladly open our arms out to you when you come to us, so that we can once again be a family. I love you, Naruto, and I will love you always. P.S. Attached to this letter is another I wrote for Rina, so please give it to her when the time is right. Also, there is a book on the bookshelf labeled, The Tales of the Utterly Gutsy Ninja. It has instructions within that will lead the way to our secret room. Use it well. With a loving and broken heart. Your father, Namikaze Minato. Yondaime Hokage no Konohagakure no Sato. Batting at his eyes, trying to halt the flow of tears threatening to overwhelm him, Naruto then moved to the letter written by his mother. Naru-chan, I so wish I did not have to write this letter. As your father, I managed to scrounge up enough chakra to make a clone to write this, but a clone can still cry, and I'm doing so every moment I write this letter to you. Naruto, I love you so much. I wish I could be there with you too as you grow up to become adults. I wish I could be there to help you get dressed for your first date, or make you a cake to celebrate you becoming a ninja. I wish I could be there for you to see you get married and watch over all the grandchildren you would give me. I wish for so much and yet cannot have any of this. Know that if there were a way, I would happily give anything to be with you and Rina again. I love you both so much, my heart hurts just thinking about it. With the time I have left, here are a few things I have to say to you, my dear little Naru-chan. Don't be a picky eater. I know you love ramen, but that sort of food won't let you grow up properly and could even stunt your growth with the lack of nutrition, so try to eat more healthily. Make sure you bathe every day and stay warm. Don't stay up too late so that you can get plenty of sleep. I also want to hear about all of your friends you make in your life when we see each other again someday. You don't need a lot, just a few that you can really trust. Make sure you study hard, and when studying to be a ninja, don't focus on one type of art, but try and learn as much as you can from all of them. Your mom was bad at this, but I know you actually like learning, so I have hopes for you, unlike me. No matter what happens in the coming years and with our deaths, please don't get depressed, okay? We know you are sad right now, but we never want to see you like that. Be a big boy, put a smile on your face, and remember all the good times we shared together. You have to be strong for Rina, and you don't want her to see you sad, do you? Respect everyone around you and make sure not to become arrogant, because that is something that can lead you down the wrong paths in life. Regarding the 3 prohibitions, please don't take after your perverted godfather. Be extra careful about loaning and borrowing money. Make sure you save money from every mission, and don't start drinking until you're 21. Make sure to drink in moderation when you do, because too much drinking is bad for your body. Most of all though, even though I'm a girl and don't really know much about this, at some point you'll notice girls, and that's completely normal. Just be careful that you don't fall for the first girl that comes your way, because she might not always be the one. Find someone like me who would love you with all her heart and give up everything just to be with you. If she is able to do that, you know you found the one for you. Naru-chan, just like I will tell Rina, there will be many challenges ahead of you and many will not be pleasant to go through. I have to inform you that those with a demon sealed within them are known as Jinchuriki, also known as power of human sacrifice. They hold the demon inside in check and make sure they do not get out. I was one of these people, and even if I had survived the Kyuubi attack, I would have died due to one important fact. All Jinchuriki die when the demon inside of them is removed. It is just a cold, hard fact, so make sure you watch over Rina. As someone who is like Rina now, I know the difficulties of growing up with such a heavy burden on my shoulders. She will need someone there for her to protect her, so please be there for her. If she needs a shoulder to cry on, be that shoulder. If she needs a hug, offer that hug. I know you will look after her and love her just as much as we would. I so very much love you, Naru-chan, and I can't even describe it into words. Fight through everything and come out strong just like your mother and father. And remember this, you are never alone. We will always be in your heart no matter what. We both love you with all our hearts, Naru-chan. We will wait for you, but make sure you don't come too early. P.S. I'm sure your father is giving you the instruction in order to get to our secret room. In there is a scroll that contains instructions on how to perform the Uzumaki chakra chains. Only those with a special type of blood are able to use this technique, and I believe you are one of these special people like I was. You're my son after all. I hope it helps you in the future. There is a letter beside this one for Rina when the time is right, so please give it to her, Naru-chan. With tears in her eyes and her heart full of love. Your mother, Uzumaki Namikaze Kushina. A loving parent that will never be able to express how much her children mean to her. At this, feeling the emotions rolling from the letter, Naruto curled up into a tight ball at the front of his parents' bed and cried his eyes out, ridding himself of every sad and sorrow-filled emotion associated with the loss of his parents. After purging his body slowly of the negative emotions, Naruto read over both letters twice more before laying them down. With his eyes hardening, the resolve clear behind those strikingly blue eyes, Naruto stood up, his eyes and cheeks still red from his weeping, but no more tears escaped him. He would do as his parents asked him and would become stronger to protect those that he cared about, especially Rina. Remembering what both father and mother had told him, Naruto made his way over to the bookshelf and, removing the indicated book, flipped it open. There, folded into a neat bundle, sat a folded up piece of paper. Unfolding it, Naruto read through the instructions on how to reach the secret room hidden in the small library of their house and what to do in order to access it. Stalking to the library, Naruto moved over to what seemed like a blank wall, the surface smooth and unblemished. As instructed, he nipped his thumb and, trailing a streak of blood across the wall, watched in fascination as the blood seeped into the wall. Moment later, a single black dot emerged, and from their visible seal markings began to swirl and grow from it, glowing and expanded outwards from that single point, ultimately forming a pitch-black door-like hole in the wall. His father had said in his instructions that only those with the blood of the Namikaze line would be able to access the room, since the seal was synced with the very DNA in his blood. Without hesitation, Naruto walked through the inky blackness, feeling almost weightless in the space. After a few moments of floating, Naruto felt his feet hit solid ground. Blinking away the fuzziness, he turned his head this way and that, seeing candles lit and giving off soft glows of light to illuminate the large room. On one wall, completely covered with a bookshelf that stretched from corner to corner, Naruto saw books. Each shelf was packed to the very brink, with some areas having books squeezed in wherever possible, the paper in some indicating the many years they had endured. Sharply glancing to the next wall, Naruto saw a large, polished wooden desk with various scrolls and even more books covering its surface. This was where both his parents went to in order to work on seal ideas that they thought up, he guessed. Later, Naruto would find there a scroll that told him the step-by-step procedure to making his own, unique alter-dimensional room for himself. Turning to the next wall, Naruto gasped aloud at the sight of numerous weapons, including his father's infamous Thunder God kunai, lining the wall. The entire wall was filled with pegs holding this weapon and that weapon, and Naruto saw two among these was his mother's personal sword. Moving over to it, he gingerly drew the sword. Removing it from its sheath, he admired the fine craftsmanship that must have gone into producing such a fine blade. After placing the weapon back onto its rightful pegs, Naruto then turned to the last side of the large room. What met his gaze were two glass-covered cases, each holding a few tightly rolled-up scrolls. Upon further examination, Naruto could read that one read Uzumaki while the other read Namikaze. Moving first to the Uzumaki case, Naruto discovered the adamantine sealing chains scroll as he had been told, in addition to the scrolls of their clan's fighting technique as well as everything he would need to know in the art of kenjutsu. The other thing besides sealing and longevity the Uzumakis were famous for. Shifting to the next case, Naruto gasped again. There in the scroll he was holding was the complete and well-detailed process on how to go about performing his father's infamous time-space jutsu, the Flying Thunder God technique. Tightly rolling that scroll up, knowing he would definitely come back to it, Naruto then read over the scroll containing the process on how to make the fourth's creation, the Rasengan. After that, as before, he was given a scroll containing the much faster fighting style of the Namikaze clan. Ending his tour of the place, he knew he would definitely be coming back here not only for himself but also as a place to keep Rina safe in case of danger, since the room was virtually indestructible according to his father. Turning about on his heels, without even a single glance back, Naruto left the room to face his new life, ready to take on whatever it had to throw at him. Naruto now had a new purpose in life. Every day he would go to the academy and learn what he didn't already know with clear attentiveness before racing home to his sister. When not being able to attend to her, Rina was now being watched over by a family friend, Uchiha Makoto, who upon each visit brought along her young son, Sasuke, who bubbled over in laughter whenever he saw Naruto. After spending time with Rina and performing the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu he had recently learned from one of the largest scrolls in the room labeled the Scroll of Seals, he would watch over his sister with a clone while he moved off to the secret room to study. The entire room was chock full of books containing information on the art Fuinjutsu he had just started prior to the Kyuubi attack, as well as countless other subjects. Spending 3 hours in there, busily reading over the dusty manuals and numerous scrolls and books, he would then head outside the house and perform the various katas of his parents' fighting techniques, wanting to learn them both in order to pay respect to his fallen heroes and parents. After this, for the last 2 hours until nightfall, he would practice his katana and throwing skills, and aided by both the Kenjutsu scroll as well as the occasional interference courtesy from one of the Anbu set to watching over his family, Naruto began to grow in his skills with weapons. He had refrained from using his father's special kunai for the time being and instead stuck with his mother's sword. The sword was a thing of beauty and was how his mother had gained the name of Red Hot-Blooded Habanero, in conjunction with her dark, red hair flowing out behind her as she entered the battlefield. Washing up after his intense day, Naruto would then spend his free time cooking dinner for Rina and himself, playing with her for a time after before sending her off to bed. When she had grown older, she would always pouted at this and always managed to convince him to let her sleep with him in the master bedroom, which he had taken over after his parents had passed away. How could he say no when she gave him that adorable and heart-melting puppy dog look? He could never say no to her. This schedule continued on for many years, and Naruto easily graduated the academy at the age of 11, nearly 12, and then 6 months later passed the Chunin exams held in Sanagakure, village hidden in the sand, with his team, and was the only one among them to be promoted to the rank of Chunin for that first run. He had desperately wanted to continue working with them, but his newest responsibilities as a Chunin didn't offer him much time. This rankled Naruto even more because he craved more time to spend with his sister, who was growing up so fast. He knew she could take care of herself for the most part now, but he still worried. There had been the awful night to which Naruto had taken his first kill. 3 years prior, Naruto was walking back in from a longer than usual workout outside, his mother's katana now firmly strapped to his back so as to give him maximum movement. Readying the stove and hoping Rina wouldn't be mad at him for starting dinner so late, he almost didn't notice the lack of the usual "ni-san" that he often heard from his little sister. Finally noting the absence, Naruto turned around and began looking about for her in case she might be starting another one of her hide and pounce games with him. Placing his sword on a nearby table, he moved from room to room, peering in before moving on after not finding her. Finally, upon reaching her door at the end of the hallway, Naruto opened it and was stunned to what he found. Lying on her bed with her feet being bound together so as to force her to remain still, a large figure loomed over the bed. His appearance was like that of every other Anbu member Naruto had ever seen, except that on the right shoulder that held the usual marking for Anbu, This one had a different marking that reading the word "nay." The figure seemed to notice the entrance of the boy and spinning around, launched 4 kunai in Naruto's direction. Reacting quickly, Naruto rolled to the side, the door taking the hits and splintering on contact with the sharp weaponry. Rising from his position, he launched himself at the masked figure, wanting desperately to get the person away from Rina. All he got was a kick in the face for his efforts, and he crashed into the side of the opposite wall with a loud crunch, some furniture being destroyed as it had been in his way. Picking up one of these broken pieces, Naruto flung it at the person watching it sail right past him without harm. Giving a malevolent snarl at the figure and forcing the pain down, Naruto once again moved to his feet and, jumping forward, lifted his right fist up high and aimed for the mask covering the figure's face. Yet again he was stopped and blown away, but in the same process, the man took a step back to prepare himself for the impending attack. This happened over and over again, the figure stepping back a step and Naruto being sent flying away. However, no matter how painful this was, it was not nearly as painful as the thought of losing his sister. Enraged by this thought and not wanting to fail his parents, Naruto raced forward one last time, his eyes only seeing red in his maddened and slightly crazed state, and with his movements quickened by stone-cold fury and desperation, he managed to score a devastating shove to the figure's chest. This was not what had made Naruto give a grim smile. No, it was the fact that with that push backwards he had sent the figure's body straight back into the pointed tip of the broken piece of a desk leg that Naruto had thrown close to the beginning of the battle, the leg impaled in the wall. He watched grimly as a thin trickle of blood escaped down the figure's front, coating the black clothing red even though the blood was so dark one could barely see it staining the clothing. The sharp leg had pierced the figure's heart and had instantly killed the intruder. Naruto slumped over, exhaustion finally creeping into his body after the high caused by the adrenaline coursing through his veins had died down. Weakly, he opened one bruised over eye and stared at the now dead, masked person. Realizing what he had done, how he had just killed a human being, Naruto felt like he was going to vomit, but quickly rationalized the whole thing out, telling himself that if he had not, Rina and himself might have died this very night or worse. Still feeling uneasy about the whole thing, Naruto rose slowly from his position and, limping, made his way over to Rina's tied-up form. Her eyes were wide and tear-stained, but once Naruto managed to untie the bindings, she leapt into his arms, her own wrapped tightly around his body, so tightly that she seemed never to want to let him go. "Ni-san, I was so scared," she cried into his shoulder. Remembering his mother's words faintly, he let her do so, knowing perfectly well that if his mother hadn't told him that he would have done so anyways. Lying there together, they took comfort in each other's presence and slowly relaxed with it. Realizing that she was now calm, Naruto then ran with Rina in hand to the Hokage Tower, where he informed Hiruzen of everything that had transpired. Needless to say, the Hokage was furious and ordered an immediate investigation. After being informed that the team watching the house had been found dead, their bodies left in some nearby bushes, the Hokage then asked if Naruto remembered anything about his attacker whose body had not been found at the scene of the crime. Upon being informed of the nay sign he had seen, Hiruzen growled something out under his breath before telling Naruto that he and his sister would stay in his home for the time being until all this had been sorted out. Bowing in thanks for his kindness, the two made their way home to pack up a few belongings and clothes. Once done, they left and, with the Hokage guiding them, made their way to his home, where they settled in, waiting for 2 long weeks before they were allowed to return to their home. After that night, Naruto had worried for his sister on a daily basis, knowing the way the villagers spoke about her and even him on occasion, calling him the brother of that demon child. Many didn't know how to feel on the situation. For one, both children were that of both Uzumaki Kushina and their late Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato. But as well, one of them held the demon that had attacked and killed so many of their loved ones. Some decided to look at their family past the demon, but many others didn't and cursed the entire family, believing it had been corrupted by the demon. It was at the tender age of 12, almost 13, that Naruto finally thanked Kami that he had gone over every facet of Konoha's legal system. And of course all thanks were to be given to his clones. 6 months later, as the only current, eligible person to take the mantle of Uzumaki and Namikaze within Konoha, Naruto had found himself one day in the Grand Council room doing his duty as the head of both clans. Many didn't think much of him, thinking he was the brother of the demon or he was just some snot-nosed upstart that didn't know one end of a kunai to the other. Of course, these many comments usually came from the civilian side of the council as well as an occasional remark from one of the aging elders. The shinobi side had great respect for the boy, both as the son of their former Yondaime Hokage as well as personally for his own skills. He was shaping up to being one of the best chunin they had within the village, and there were even talks of a junin promotion after having only become a chunin 6 months prior. All he seemed to need was experience, and he received plenty with the many missions he had led over that 6-month period. Naruto of course didn't really care much for his rank personally and simply did what had to be done in order to strengthen himself and protect his sister. It had even gotten to the point where Naruto barely saw anyone but Rina except for the occasional visit by the Hokage, Uchiha Makoto, who seemed to want to help her best friend's children as much as she possibly could, as well as Kakashi, who tried to stay in touch, but was always busy with Anbu. Sitting there, Naruto just listened to the usual chatter about the demon doing this and the demon doing that, and only did his anger flare up when he heard mention that she should die for just being born into this world. At this, Naruto's anger became palpable and his chakra flared out to match his mood, creating a killing intent that could rival that of a low-level Junin, pressing down on all of them before finally lessening the effect as soon as he heard the first fake and pleading apology coming from them. The Anbu set to guarding the room had immediately responded to the spike in chakra, but noting it was only Naruto, quietly slunk back to their original positions. The shinobi side merely smiled over at the boy that looked at them, all realizing what he was going through. None of the clan heads, while losing many from their clan in the Kyuubi attack, faulted Rina for any of it and did not see her as the demon many mistook her to be. They all reasonably saw a scared girl who was being accused of something she had had no control over since she had been just a babe at the time. Naruto greatly appreciated this and often voiced his thanks in hushed whispers, given shakes of the head in return telling him it was no matter. Even the ever-stern Hyuga Hiyashi, clan head of the Hyuga clan, had grown a soft spot for the girl, and his daughter had quickly become attached to her, almost seeing her as a sister of sorts. When the Hokage had entered and everyone had risen in respect for the older man, the council meeting was started. Yagato Kisu, a large and bulky businessman who had control over many of the stores in Konoha, raised his voice to start it off. "Hokage-sama, we are here today to discuss the enrollment of the girl earlier this week. We do not believe she should be allowed to be entered, and most importantly should stay home so that she does not corrupt anyone else around her." Hiruzen had been about to defend the girl personally, but when a large killing intent coming from his right caught his attention, he sighed and sat back, inwardly smiling at the fact that Naruto's intent was progressing well to the point where he too could feel the effect on him to a lesser degree. "Councilman Yagato, pray tell, what do you mean by your comment concerning the corruption done by Uzumaki Namikaze Rina? I must not have heard you correctly, since you seem to have been implying that she has corrupted those around her. Might I ask why you think she is able to corrupt people? Is there a reason you think such? Do tell." During this whole process, Naruto had yet to relinquish his killing intent, and some were feeling the effects. Worst off was the questioned man, who was barely breathing under the glare and pressure directed towards him. When he finally realized he would receive no answer because of the intent he was giving off, Naruto took deep breaths to calm himself, and the feeling went away, many thanking their lucky stars that it did, or else they wouldn't have lasted much longer. Yagato Kisu for his part gulped at the questions given to him, and knowing he could not actually speak of the Kyuubi under the third Hokage's law, stuttered out his response. "We of the civilian council believe that the girl would be a bad influence on the easily malleable and manipulated children around her." At this he received a short burst of intent that silently informed him to tread lightly. "I mean, we just don't believe she would be a good influence on everyone is all. We just worry about our children's safety. We can't be faulted for that." Hiruzen knew better than to interrupt the current conversation and merely let it unfold. "I see. So you think she is a bad influence then? You worry about your children's safety? That is perfectly understandable, Councilman Kisu, and I can completely relate to your situation." Through all of this, Naruto spoke with a leveled, icy tone, his eyes shifting to dark cerulean so that his eyes matched his tone. "Hyuga-san, might I ask if you believe my younger sister, Rina, is considered a bad influence on your daughter and clan heir, Hyuga Hinata?" Hiyashi smiled back at the boy for a moment before turning hardened, pale eyes towards Kisu. No, I do not, Namikaze-san. I believe that she has been a very good influence on Hinata, and now they treat each other, from what I can see, as sisters. With that said, he slowly closed his eyes, once again assuming his quiet and controlled stance he usually took in such meetings. Kisu, who had been mostly embarrassment throughout this entire conversation, raised his voice, completely forgetting where he was or whom he was speaking with. That's because it's using Lady Hinata like some puppet. Trying to get close so that she can, and he was immediately stopped by Utatane Kaharu, one of the 3 elders and advisors for the Hokage. What I think Councilman Kisu is trying to say is that he is just concerned with the safety of your daughter and hopes you are keeping tabs on her to just be sure of the situation. We wouldn't anything further disastrous happening to your daughter, Hyuga-san. She had intervened at a very crucial point, for if Kisu had insulted the Hyuga clan in such a way, then the entire clan would be out for blood and a possible upheaval could occur. Hiyashi had opened his eyes once more and was staring harshly over at Kisu, his eyes activated into his family's famous Byakugan with bulging veins formed around his pale eyes. At the remark given by Kaharu, his attention snapped to her when she implied the situation concerning his late brother and the attempted kidnapping of his own daughter for their bloodline, the Byakugan. He stared at her long and hard before nodding his head. I have been watching her and will put all my confidence within the young girl. I trust her and trust her in the company of my daughters. Knowing they should move away from such a dangerous waters or risk further complications, Hiruzen then spoke. Are there any more potential reasons to keep young Rina-chan out of the academy? One of the other elders, a man by the name of Danzo, whose right half of his body was completely bandaged over, spoke up. Yes, Hiruzen. I believe I have something to add. Naruto had never liked this man, although he didn't have any real reason to do so besides feeling weary around the old man. When he heard how he had addressed the Hokage, Naruto's voice cut through the room while staring straight into Danzo's visible eye. That is Hokage-sama to you, Elder Danzo. You will give the Hokage his proper respect and title that he has rightfully earned. Do not show such blatant disrespect in my presence again, Danzo-san, and Naruto said his name in an almost challenging tone of voice. Clearing his throat to try and fend off any possible confrontation or argument between the two, Hiruzen spoke up. Yes, Danzo. What would you like to add? Hokage-sama, and his eye flicked to Naruto for the briefest of moments before moving back to the Hokage. I believe that the girl would best serve under me as an apprentice. Under me she could learn how to control her powers that will begin to slowly emerge if what he have been told by the one that examined the seal is to go by. It is all for the good of the village, and I would take full responsibility of the girl. Every shinobi instantly picked up on what he was aiming for, trying to gain full custody of the girl, but it was Naruto that spoke up. I am sorry, Danzo-san, but I can't allow that. As I am a ninja and therefore considered a legal adult, I am entitled to watch over my sister as her legal guardian. She does not need another. As her guardian, I am the only one that can legally tell her what to do, since she is not a ninja and is not thought of as a threat. And here Naruto gave everyone a hard look as if to dare them to refute his claim. As well, I do not trust, and he emphasized that word in particular, you enough to hand over my sister to you. She is a valuable member of my joint family and as such might have potentially dangerous information that I can't in good conscience allow to be let out to the general public, such as her current status was when the higher-ups, you 3 elders among those present, were strictly told to keep tight-lipped about the truth of her condition. Then a day later the first attack occurred at our home by one drunk man screaming at the top of his lungs that he was going to kill the demon once and for all. From then on more and more people began to show up uninvited to our home with information that they should not have known. This is why I will not willingly hand over my sister to you, Danzo-san. Do not take it as an insult, but merely words from an overprotective and weary older brother. The shinobi side and even the Hokage to a lesser extent smirked at the way Naruto had tactfully handled the situation. He had insulted the man, accused him or the other elders of leaking the information, had informed all that they had no control or authority over Rina, and had said it all while keeping cool and level-headed in the current situation. Danzo remained silent after this, and seeing this the Hokage went on, very well. Danzo will not teach young Rina-chan. She will attend the academy until she reaches the age to attempt the genin exam, and if passed, will move on to become a genin of the leaf. At this there were many outraged cries, comments such as, don't let the thing near out children, or, She should be controlled and not allowed to walk freely, were among the many shouted out by the civilian representatives. It was during all this that Naruto was growing angrier by the comment, but only the thoughts of keeping his cool kept him from exploding at the civilians. They would take that as a clear sign that he was unable to manage his role as a legal guardian due to being unable to control his temper, and would use that opportunity to strip him of that role to do who knew what to her. That girl that you are all referring to is not a thing. She is Uzumaki Namikaze Rin, sister of Chunin-ranked Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto. She is the daughter of the late Uzumaki Namikaze Kushina and her husband, our late Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato. She is a young human girl who has feelings and should be treated as such. I implore you to keep that in mind, civilians, or else there will be hell to pay. Naruto had seen the obvious reaction at being insulted by being labeled as simple civilians, but all had bitten back angry retorts knowing that Naruto never went back on his word and suffice to say would carry out his threat if need be. Is that a threat? Asked the last of the three elders, one that went by the name of Mitokado Homura. He was as old as his two companions but seemed the more lenient of the three. It was a simple fact. I am sure you all know how protective I can be for my loved ones. Suffice it say that if anything was to happen to her, I would find her if taken and wreak havoc on those that would dare insult my family. After that I would take both her as well as the techniques such as the Thunder God and Rasengan and travel far away from this village. I really doubt you want to risk losing two valuable things such as those as well as the last members of the Uzumaki and Namikaze clans. So as I said before, it not a threat, but a simple fact, Elder Mitokado. The older man seemed to consider this for a moment, his eyes staring at the young boy in intrigue for a few moments before nodding his head. The young clan head fascinated him for, even though he was vastly intelligent, strong-willed, and powerful in his right, he was still quite very young. Homura had always had a liking for his mother, Kushina, for she too had possessed those same qualities when she had come to the village as a refugee of sorts, and this respect had now passed down onto her son. Very well. I think we all see what you are saying, Uzumaki-san. Thank you for elaborating. Hiruzen quickly put in his 2 cents before the meeting would be adjourned. I don't think that will be necessary, Naruto. Rina-chan will be treated with respect that she is due as is any other child her age. We all greatly respect your clans and nothing bad will come to them, I can assure you of that. Now then, I think we are finished here for the time being. Naruto, I will like to see you in my office to talk about the upcoming Junin exam. Thank you everyone and be safe. It was safe to say that Naruto had kept a tight watch on his sister from then on when he could, and begged both the Anbu and Makoto do so when he could not, which they gladly did since the new Anbu team as the one prior had taken a liking to Rina's sweet and kind personality, the new young purple-haired swordsman looking Anbu taking an obvious shine. And so Naruto went about life, watching his sister closely, and after a month of waiting for the Junin exam to start, passed that with flying colors and took up the position of Junin Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto no Konohagakure. 6 years later, Naruto had just returned from a long mission, his body aching from the many cuts and bruises decorating his body. It had been one hell of a mission, but Naruto had enjoyed it all the same. The original A-rank mission had been to simply investigate and intercept a group of mercenaries set to kidnapping a nobleman's daughter and using her as ransom. That had changed upon contact with the enemy. All information gathered had indicated there would only be around 50 of the miscreants, but when Naruto and his team had ambushed the group, they quickly came to realize that among those present were at least half a dozen A rank, 8 B rank, and 5 C rank missing nin who put up one hell of a fight. They had been hired to aid in the ambush. Suffice it to say they had not taken kindly to having the tables turned on them and had reacted violently, leading to an immediately clash between the two groups. In the end, Naruto and his team of 8, thankfully all being higher-ranked Junin and Chunin, had managed to squeeze out a victory, but not without having one of his men injured in the fight. While someone like Naruto often didn't need assistance in a fight, the number games always balanced the playing field out in the end, and it was thanks to the assistance of his team that the enemy had been beaten. However, the injured teammate rankled Naruto deeply for, while he knew that he should be thankful none of his team had died, Naruto's perfect streak of coming back without an injured teammate was broken after 6 years of leading his own Junin and Chunin squads. Sighing at the thought and ordering his men away and the one injured taken to the hospital, Naruto made his way to the Hokage Tower for debriefing. Moving through the brightly lit and curving hallway, Naruto stopped in front of a mirror, his eyes drifting up and down his form to take in his appearance. He almost looked like an exact replica of his father, Minato, from the chiseled yet slightly rounded face with golden locks hanging from either side of his face. He was tall, standing at a near 6 feet 1 inch with a lean, fighter's frame that seemed to be built for speed rather than strength. He now wore a standard green flak jacket zipped halfway up with a solid black muscle shirt underneath whose sleeves covered 3/4 of his arms before leading to his hands that were covered with the standard Junin plated gloves. Below this, Naruto wore a pair of solid black Junin pants with various pockets for storage. His left thigh was wrapped with a few layers of bandages while on his right was a pouch that held his explosive tags and kunai, which were exact copies to his father. Near his back pockets were 2 additional pouches, one holding regular kunai while the other shuriken. Just above the sandals on both legs was an additional thin layer of bandage tape wrapped about his legs. As well, Naruto had a red and black trimmed haori at home just as his father had, but rarely wore it unless the mood hit him or the situation was deemed fit to wear it. He hated having the thing repaired every time it got caught or torn in battle. In his younger days, Naruto had always sported a brightly colored orange shirt, but over the years he had come to realize that the color was a dead giveaway when stealth was required on missions. Naturally, he had done away with it, but his love of the color had not waned, and every morning he would wrap an orange kerchief around his upper arm in representation of those long-gone, innocent years he had had before finally accepting the true life of a shinobi. Approaching the Hokage's door, he eyed the 2 guards on either side, both of whom stepped aside quickly without a word of protest or request for identification lest they face the wrath of Konoha's own Yellow Wraith, S-rank ninja in all known bingo books. At the tender age of 15, after countless hours of research and studying, Naruto had finally done something no one in written history had ever done before. Having wanted to refrain from using his father's ingenious creation, Hireishin, and desiring to be known for his own achievements rather than someone else's, Naruto had concocted a seal array that was solely his and his alone. The seal had been vastly complicated to create, drawing on layer upon layer of various seals to support itself and the ability it offered someone. The entire premise of the experiment based on one thing and one thing only: speed. It had taken months to create with many failed experiments in between start and finish, but it had been all worth it to Naruto when the final product was constructed. Implanting his new seal formula into his own sandals, Naruto was now able to magnify his speed to an almost unheard level, matching a speed just below that of the flying thunder god itself. While it indeed was not as fast as his father's creation, it in turn gave Naruto more perks when it came to fighting. Instead of being forced to move in a basic straight line in between points as the flying thunder god made the user do, Naruto's seal gave him the ability to direct and redirect his movements as though he were simply running extremely fast, something he was basically doing. This made for a much more convenient way of fighting than having to worry about planting his seals down this way and that. So fast was the speed he moved at that the only thing the enemy saw was a bright, yellow afterimage of Naruto when he applied his seal, giving him the moniker of Yellow Wraith and ultimately giving his technique the name Flash Step. Although it used up a considerable more amount of chakra than the Flying Thunder God, for the seals would constantly have to be infused with chakra for them to work. He had chakra aplenty, and Naruto's reputation had soared to a title only gained by the Yellow Flash himself, a flea on sight status. Stepping into the office, Naruto took in the sight before him. Sitting in his chair behind his paper-loaded desk as was custom, the 3rd Hokage sat. Before he had walked in, the woman, her ruby eyes flashing with a smile set on her equally matching lips, had been talking animatedly with their leader. Upon his entry, she had stopped and had turned to face the newest of the room's occupants. Seeing who had entered, the woman, her wild, black hair covering her entire face as she moved, bowed her head low towards him in greeting, "Namikaze-san." Naruto scowled at this, personally having never enjoyed formalities, and with his rank of S-class, who were few and far between in the lands of the elemental nations, had been given much more respect than before. He was on an equal level with the famous Densetsu no Sannin. One of those Sannin, Jiraiya the Great Toad Sage, was even his godfather and had personally trained with Naruto when he visited the village and didn't have to tend to his large spy network. From this to being the son of the Yellow Flash and Red Hot-Blooded Habanero made him quite well known. He was as well thought of as a son by one of the other Sannin, Senju Tsunade, one of the greatest medical ninja to ever grace the land, surrogate grandson to the third Hokage, and little brother to Kakashi no Sharingan. With all of this, Naruto seemed to have many connections and was famous throughout the land. So of course Yuhi Kurenai, the woman in the Hokage's office, had given respect to him, although it was mostly due to the fact the Hokage was right there. Both were close friends and had known each other for a long time. Waving his hand in a gesture to signify for her to cease such actions and a small smile replacing the previous scowl, Naruto responded, "Please don't do that, Kurenai. You know how much I hate formalities." Kurenai darted her gaze towards the Hokage, which got Naruto's eyes rolling. "Like he cares what anyone calls me. Isn't that right, you old coot?" Hiruzen growled at the boy's impudence. Chuckling, Kurenai smirked at the blonde. "Very well, Naruto." She turned to look back at the Hokage. "Please excuse me, Hokage-sama. I should get going. I have plans this evening that must be taken care of." "Oh, of course, Kurenai-chan. You are excused, and I hope you find your new Junin rank to your satisfaction. Come to Naruto, myself, or any of your other Junin for advice if you need it. I am sure any one of us would be willing to offer our support." "Thank you. I shall keep that in mind. Goodbye for now, Hokage-sama." "You as well, Naruto," and with that she strode out of the room, leaving behind both men standing there in the now quiet office. "I assume you have come to report your mission. You seem a bit ruffled up, so am I to guess that the mission did not go as planned?" Hiruzen said into the silence, peering at Naruto with intrigue. "Hi Gigi. We had just finished gathering information on our target and after planning our move had set up an ambush. We had been only expecting mercenaries within the group wishing to kidnap young Matoshi-san. But what we hadn't expected were 6 low A-rank missing nin from Kumo with an assortment of B and C rank as the mix. Let's just say they were as glad to see us as we were to see them." Naruto chuckled. "After the battle and leaving none alive, we stored the bodies of the missing nin for Konoha to collect their bounties and headed back here with the money for the successful mission. Only one of my men sustained major injuries and is now being taken care of at the hospital. Further details will be in my report," Naruto said, nodding his head towards the Hokage. "You say there is someone from your team in the hospital? Well, it looks like your streak is gone now. It is a shame, but at least no one was killed," Hiruzen teased, causing Naruto to bristle. "Yes, well, what's happened has happened and nothing we do can change the past, no matter how much you would like to." Sensing the mood shift, Hiruzen cleared his throat to draw Naruto's attention back to the present for the time being. "Yes, well, congratulate your team for me. You all did a superb job from what I can see and will receive compensation for the addition of so many high-ranked ninja. Thank you for informing me, Naruto, and if you would stop by in 2 days, I wish to discuss something with you that might change your life for the better." Curious at that final statement, Naruto bid the Hokage good day before simply disappearing out the open window, heading in the direction of his home. Upon arriving, he set his sword down on the nearest table and stripped away his flak jacket. With a heavy sigh, he catapulted onto the couch and there lay face down, weariness starting to overcome his body. Yet sleep was never to be for Naruto, for as his eyes closed and his conscience began to slowly drift away, the front door of the house opened and with a loud bang closed a split second later. Opening his eyes so that they formed slits, Naruto saw a red-haired girl pass through his vision, seeming not to be able to sense him due in part to his body unconsciously keeping his chakra levels as low as possible out of reflex. Groaning softly to himself, he dragged his body into a sitting position before raising his voice, "And here I don't get a hug or welcome home. I'm heartbroken, Rina-chan." Naruto grinned as he heard a loud squeal coming from the kitchen and 5 seconds later was properly glomped as Rina raced over and tackled her brother. Too tired to do much but hug her in return, Naruto smiled down at her bright and happy face. "Welcome home, Ni-san. I missed you," exclaimed Rina, burrowing her face into his chest as if wanting to stay there for eternity. He was her only family and the bond between them could only ever be broken by death itself. Giving her one last squeeze before grunting and pulling away from her, she only then noticed how tired he looked. "Oh, I'm sorry, Ni-san. You look awful. Thanks for pointing that out. I probably feel worse than I look." And here Naruto grinned, his eyes glinting with amusement. "Anyways, how's the classes, dead last, doing, still failing those tests? This was an inside joke between the two and had been going on for nice 6 years now. 6 years prior, 6-year-old Rina was cold. She could feel cold water rushing about her ankles as she stood there in the dark, musky sewer-like room. Before her was an immense gate, stretching for as high as the eye could see. Set in between the side edges of the two caged doors laid a simple piece of paper with the kanji for seal written upon it. Walking slowly over, feeling some sort of malicious force exuding from the cage, Rina stopped stock still as the greatest figure she had ever seen came into existence right before her very eyes. The figure, in the shape of an orange-furred fox, had red slitted eyes that were filled with complete and utter hatred. Behind it, swirling and shifting about, were 9 tails each seeming to have a life of its own. Within a moment of stopping, Rina saw the great beast rise up on its haunches, 9 tails splayed out behind it with equal spacing in between each one, before it launched itself at her and the caged doors. Releasing an ear-splitting roar that shook the very room around her, causing cracks to form in the sewer walls, its malice-filled eyes staring fixatedly upon Rina as it charged. Rina couldn't move, she couldn't breathe, and what made matters worse was that the caged doors seemed to just disappear, leaving only open space between her and the running fox. She was scared witless at the spectacle and feared that she would never again see her amazing older brother again. An image of her brother flashed through her mind and stayed there just as the great maw opened wide, biting down with a snap. Then all she saw was black. Naruto had awoken as soon as he had heard the screams of alarm. Reaching under the pillow for his kunai, he darted swiftly out of the room. His heart was beating so fast, thinking that there was yet another attack on his poor sister, but when he came to her room and saw her thrashing about, his worry diminished ever so slightly. Moving over to her and placing his hands on her, he tried to shake her away and rid her of her nightmares to no avail. Shaking her more urgently, his worry increasing, he finally saw her lids snap open and Naruto had to step involuntarily back at what he saw. Dark blue eyes had come together to meet Violet, and Naruto had seen the pure and utter fear written in those orbs staring back at him. Ni-san? He heard Rina ask, and instantly he was at her side again, hands reaching out to clasp her own in his. Yeah, it's me, Rina. Don't worry, I'm here. I was so scared, it was so dark, I thought I had lost you forever, and with that statement she broke down. Naruto quickly moved in to let his arms ensnare her, propping her head up against his chest as he lay there, letting her cry her fears out. When at least she had become still, not a single sob being uttered by the small girl, then did Naruto ask. What was your nightmare about, Rina-chan? Rina seemed to hesitate at this, her voice failing as she once again seemed to relive that horrifying image of being eaten by the large fox. It was so scary. I was in this dark and wet place. I didn't know where I was, and there was this big cage in front of me. When I looked in, all I could see was a big angry fox staring at me. It ran towards me and I was so scared I couldn't move. Then it ate me and everything went black. Naruto tried to suppress the growing knot in his stomach, his mind racing at the very idea of Rina seeing. Rina, what color fur did the fox have? I think it had orange fur, Ni-san. And it had 9 tails behind it. Naruto's body instantly tightened, his breathing becoming labored as he tried to fight down the growing anxiety and worry that was beginning to invade his body. Rina seemed to pick up on his change in temperament and gazing up at him asked, "What's wrong?" Breathing deeply so as to try and calm his rapidly beating heart and push down the nausea that was rolling through his stomach, Naruto wondered what he should do. Should he tell her the truth? Was she too young to be told the truth and truly understand? What would happen if he did? All these questions came at Naruto in one great gigantic wall of thoughts, and he felt himself drowning under the pressure of making the right decision. Only the light touch of Rina's hand on his arm dragged him out of that waiting tsunami of worry and doubt. It was always Rina, Naruto thought before he sighed and propped himself further against the backboard of the bed. Rina-chan, please listen to me and do not interrupt. What I'm about to tell you is extremely important and cannot be spoken aloud unless you truly and utterly trust someone. You may speak about this if you want to, but if someone else were to, there would be severe consequences for that person. Do you understand me? This is an S-rank secret and it's top secret. I understand, Ni-san. All right, just remember what I said and don't interrupt no matter what. Pausing to run a hand through his hair, he finally began. When you were born, something very terrible and sad happened. Something that would lead to a great many people becoming angry and still remaining angry even up to this day. 6 years ago the great Kyuubi attacked our village and almost completely destroyed it. If it wasn't for the work of the Yondaime Hokage, our father, we would not be here right now nor would we be alive. Our father fought the Kyuubi and after a long and tiring battle managed to succeed in trapping it with the help of our mother, Kushina. I'm sure you've been told that our father killed the Kyuubi. Let me tell you, Rina. Here his voice dropped significantly. There is no possible way to kill a demon, and so what people do is seal the demon into something that can hold the great power and might of that beast. There are a couple pots and jars that have the power to hold the creatures, but the strongest one of all, the most sought after and used sealing object in all the lands, is a human sacrifice. And so wanting to protect his village and family, our father sealed the Kyuubi into a babe born just that day. Naruto paused and looked deeply into Rina's eyes, wanting to impart this very important knowledge upon her without any misunderstanding. Now, and I want you to listen carefully to me, Rina. Our father couldn't bring himself to use someone else's child and believed that it would be despicable to do so. So as a sacrifice he used his own to store the demon. On the night of our parents' death and the defeat of the Kyuubi, you, Rina, became the vessel that holds the demon. There is a seal on you that keeps the beast in check. This is why you probably hear things like, demon brat, or have been told to just go die. People are mad at the Kyuubi for killing their loved ones and want revenge. At hearing this, Rina began to shake violently, a painful sob retching from her throat as she cried uncontrollably. Naruto stopped his lecture there, content with just letting Rina go over the information in her head and come to her own conclusions. It was the next 3 words that stunned Naruto to the core and made him want to vomit. I am a monster, the words coming out so matter-of-factly, so convinced that it was the truth that Naruto furiously shook his head and grabbed at Rina, forced her to look up at him and into his eyes. No, you are not a monster, Rina. You are definitely nothing like that. The beast was stored in the seal on you. It's like a holder for a kunai. The holder holds the kunai, but is not the kunai itself. You are what keeps the Kyuubi locked in its prison. You could never be a monster, Rina-chan. I could actually describe how this description of a Jinchuriki is actually incorrect, but she is a child and might not understand. But, Tu-san and Ka-chan are dead because of me. I was the reason you got left behind, Ni-san. If it wasn't for me, you would be happy, you wouldn't be alone. Naruto's eyes snapped down at that, his entire body going numb from the shock of her words. For many precious moments he just sat there, staring down at his sister who was crying softly into his chest. Reaching up with a free hand, Naruto began to lightly stroke the back of his sister's hair, his fingertips gliding across the glorious strands of red hair and occasionally parting them like rocks with the ocean waves. Oh Rina-chan, never say something like that again. Our parents gave their lives up to protect this village, true, but they also gave them up so that we both may live and grow up. It's the duty of a parent to protect their children, and they did that night. They loved us both so much. I know they did. Also, I am never alone, Rina-chan. I have you here with me and I love you so much. And for the next part, Naruto laid his hand gently atop the place where Rina's heart beat softly, her body and mind calmly under his soft words. Plus we're both never truly alone. We always have our parents, in here, in our hearts. They are always watching over us and would hate it so much if they saw you crying right now. They always wanted me to be happy and they'd want the same for you. Now please stop worrying. You are not the Kyuubi and you never will be. The village just doesn't understand that. Never believe what they say about you and remember what I said tonight. Let my words guide you. If I ever lost you, I wouldn't know what to do, and he slightly broke, tears falling from the corner of his eyes as he shed his fears for a possible future. Rina gave him a soft smile and buried her head further into his chest, squeezing her arms a bit more tightly around him to show him the same comfort he had shared with her. It's okay, Ni-san. I'm not going anywhere, she said, lifting her head up to plant a soft kiss on his cheek. Naruto chuckled dryly. All right, I'm better now. You can stop giving me the death grip, he teased lightly. How about a change of topic? How were the last few days at the academy? You learn a lot? Rina bobbed her head at the question and smiled warmly, wiping away her tears. Yeah, I did. I don't like learning boring stuff, but Hinata-chan is there so it makes it fun. She exclaimed jovially. Oh, that's right. You're spending a lot of time with her, I totally forgot. How is she? Is she fun? Heck yeah she is. She's so much fun and we have a lot in common and her eyes are to die for and… Whoa there, slow down, I get the picture. Seems you really are having fun, although now we have to talk about something that isn't so fun. Naruto said, his happy mood slowly diminishing at the thought. What is it, Ni-san? Rina asked curiously, raising her head off his chest to glance up at him. Well, you know how we just talked about you having the Kyuubi and people not understanding you. Rina once again nodded her head, remembering what he had said. Yes, well, we both know you're smart. Very very smart in fact, but there are factors that you have to understand, Naruto informed hesitantly. What factors? Rina asked, rather confused at the moment since her brother wasn't making much sense at all right now. Well, a lot of people see you as the Kyuubi and so are very scared. Remember all the attacks that still occasionally happen? That's what I'm talking about, Rina-chan. I don't want you to get hurt since you're outside of the house a lot more now without supervision around you. Something bad could happen. Rina shook her head and gently rubbed his forearm in order to placate Naruto's growing ire and anger. It's all right. I won't get hurt. I promise, and I never break my promises. Naruto visibly flinched at talks of breaking promises, remembering back to the time when his own father had made him a promise and had broken it. Naruto didn't hate the man for that. Everything was out of his control at the time and Naruto would have fared no better than he if the roles had been reversed. He had forgiven his father long ago and prayed that his father was at peace because of it. I know you don't, Rina-chan. All right, well, in order to become a shinobi you have to pass a certain test called the Genin exam. I'll let you in a little secret that you can't tell anyone, okay? At this, Rina showed her response with a quick jerk of the head. While most think that when they finish showing off the 3 academic jutsus and passing all the previous portions along with that one means that they have become genin, they are completely wrong. After that half of the exam, the ones that pass are broken up into teams and given junin instructors who test them themselves. If they like what they see, then they pass them and the group officially become genin like they thought they had. If not, they get sent back to the academy for another 6 months. The problem is, even if you get through the first portion of the exam fine, the second is very opinionated. I think that part of the council will try and sabotage you and force you to go back to the academy. So I can see only one way to actually get you on a team that will pass. How am I going to do that, Ni-san? Well, I'm sure you heard about almost the entire Uchiha clan being wiped out. I went to check with some others and only found Uchiha's Makoto and Sasuke left alive. I was thankful, believe me, but still what happened was very bad. Sasuke is the only one now entirely able to pass along his Uchiha genes in all of Konoha and almost the entire world, so he's going to be given special treatment, I fear. The council will surely force anyone testing Sasuke to let him pass and they will be forced to comply. That is how you're going to pass too. We're going to make sure you're on his team when you take the last portion. Naruto knew this was a terrible plan. He knew this was a very very bad plan, but there wasn't much he could do to control the bias and contempt the rest of the village held for Rina. While he might have been able to if he were here, most of the time he wasn't, so this was the only feasible way he could think of to get around it. Rina tilted her head in confusion. How are we going to do that, Ni-san? Simple really. There is a standard protocol that when making the teams they are as balanced as possible. Because of that, the Rookie of the Year, which undoubtedly will be Sasuke from what I've seen and heard, and the so-called dead last will be put on the same team with another person. Understanding finally began to dawn on Rina, but there was still a tinge of confusion in her violet-hued eyes. But, how am I going to be the dead last if that's what you want me to be? I'm not dumb. Naruto sighed and rubbed a hand over his face. That's the bad part of the plan. In order for this to work you have to act dumber than you actually are and can't do as well as the others in all facets of the shinobi arts. I don't mean outright fail, but fail enough so you're at the bottom of the class. This will be very difficult and I don't want you to do this at all, but, and Naruto looked down remorsefully. It's the only way for me to become a ninja. Rina finished for him. Yeah, the only way I can think of. All right then. Rina seemed to cheer up. I'll just have to be the best dead last the academy has ever seen. Rine yelled out, her playful mood coming out and ready for the challenge. You sure you want to do this? You'll be looked down on and mocked a lot? Well, that's not something new, is it? Rine countered, causing Naruto to sigh once again. I'm sorry that it has to be this way, Rina. I'd have give anything for you not to do this, Naruto said sadly, eyes downcast in sorrow. It's okay Nii-san, I know you and you're only looking out for me. I'll do it and then become a ninja and then show everyone what Uzumaki Namikaze Rina can really do. I'll become the best ninja ever. Naruto chuckled at this and ruffled the top of her head, the fiery red hair billowing out around his hand. That's the spirit. Come on, enough of this serious talk. Let's go get you some ice cream. Rina cheered at this and jumping out of bed, scurried out the door and out of sight, ice cream being one of her few vices. Naruto for his part just shook his head in amusement and climbing out of the bed as well, made his way out the door and into the kitchen, glad that Rina may have a shot at becoming a ninja after all. Back to the present. Class is going just fine Nii-san. It's really hard not to do everything right. I have to use my left hand when throwing stuff and purposely have to fill in the wrong answer on the written tests. It's so hard, she said, flopping down on the other side of the couch. Naruto snorted at this and slowly got up, some of his joints cracking from the effort, but he just ignored their protests and made his way over to the kitchen to prepare lunch. Well, glad that the plan is actually working. The Genin exam is in a few days, right? Hi, it is, and that's going to be just the worst. It would be so much easier just to do everything right. Yeah, I know, but then you'd have to do everything you've done in the last 6 months all over again, and that would be even more of a drag, wouldn't it? Naruto pointed at, dipping a spoon into a leftover bowl of soup before frowning at the coldness of it and put in the microwave to heat up. I guess you're right as always Nii-san. So when do you get back from your mission? Did you come straight home? No, I came in about an hour ago and had to debrief Gigi. I have to go back in 2 days to talk about something though, Naruto replied, grabbing up a napkin and setting it down on the table as he waited for his soup. Do you know what he wants to talk about? Asked Rina as she came to sit at the table. Not a clue, but I'll let you know unless it's really important. Alright, you better. Now let me tell you what happened at school today. It was so funny. And with that Rina and Naruto began to talk as Naruto ate his soup, both comfortable in the other's presence and quite willing to share some of their latest stories together. 2 days later found Naruto casually walking into the Hokage's office, the heels of his sandals clipping the carpeted flooring to make his presence known before stopping just short of the desk. Hiruzen looked up from his reading and smiled warmly up at the tall man standing before him. Ah Naruto-kun, I see you're as punctual as ever. I'm so glad you didn't take after Kakashi in that regard. I'm glad as well. I couldn't handle being shot death glares from everyone at being late and making them wait 2 hours for me to show up, Naruto replied jokingly. Yes, well be that as it may, we have something to discuss. Please sit, the Hokage bade him, gesturing with a hand to one of the 2 chairs in front of his desk. When Naruto instantly complied, the Hokage then went on. I have a proposition for you that may interest you greatly if I can manage it, Naruto. Something that will benefit a great many people. At this Naruto raised a single brow in curiosity, but did not say anything in reply. As you know, you have great weight and support among many of the land's greatest ninja as well as are known to be an equal to many of those same people. You are the prince of Whirlpool Country and clan head of both the Uzumaki and Namikaze clans as well as being one of only 2 survivors known of said clans. You hold many powerful techniques at your disposal, which would be catastrophic to the village if handed over to an enemy. As you can see, you probably have almost as much weight as I do, and this will give us an advantage in the next coming days. Here Hiruzen paused, letting Naruto have some time to think over what he had said. Finally, leaning over his desk, he continued with a simple question. What if I was to suggest that you be given a position of Junin sensei to a group of genin? Naruto frowned. You know my skills are much more needed out in battle than watching kids Gigi. Yes, I know and agree with you except on one point. While your skills are very impressive as they ought for an S-rank ninja, they would best be served watching the genin I have in mind. Naruto cocked his head, the confusion evident in his sky-blue eyes. And why is that? That is because I want you to be a Junin sensei to Rina as well as Uchiha Sasuke. Naruto's attention was immediately caught at that, eyes wide in shock at the suggestion. Not only Rina but Sasuke as well? Yes, I know of your plan to fool everyone into thinking Rina is the dead last so that she will be paired up with Sasuke. I fully agree with your thoughts on the matter, and so I've decided to use my power as Hokage to put them together after the exams and would do so even if she weren't considered the dead last of her class. He offered the blonde an amused chuckle. I think this situation is a win-win for all parties. Rina becomes a genin, you get to watch over her, and the council is appeased with the knowledge that an S-rank ninja will be watching over one of the last of the Uchiha as well as the holder for the Kyuubi. I think it a perfect situation. Naruto had to agree to this and gave the Hokage a sly grin. You've been thinking this up for a while now, haven't you? Either way I like it, but how do you know Rina will pass the exam? The Hokage gave Naruto an interested and slightly amused glance before explaining, that is simple. I will be there personally proctoring the final portion of the test alone. That way, since I presume she will be going for 50% on the previous 2 portions, doing all 3 academic jutsus perfectly will just give her enough to pass the test. She won't have to worry about keeping up her dead last status in front of me. Naruto slowly rose from his seat, standing tall before bowing to the old man. Thank you, Gigi. You will not regret doing this. Hiruzen snorted and waved his hand in front of the man as a show of blowing the comment off. I know I won't, and it's the least I can do for what has happened. Now then, be off with you. Come back in a week to the main conference room to discuss the matter further. Oh, and when you can, I would like you to drop off your father's forbidden scroll. I need to look over one of the jutsus in it. Bowing yet again, saying that he would bring the scroll, and offering another one of his famous grins, Naruto bid the Hokage farewell while slipping out of the room via the doors this time and made his way back home. Oh, Rina was going to kill him when she found out he had kept this from her. The academy a few days later. Good luck, Dobi. You're really going to need it, although we all know you're going to fail yet again, said a certain raven-haired Uchiha Sasuke. Yeah, there's no way you can possibly pass with how badly you've done so far, said a pink-haired girl that went by the name of Haruno Sakura. It is interesting to point out that you would need a high grade in the 3rd part of the test as well to pass, Sakura-san. You did not do that well outside, replied a coat-wearing boy with dark black sunglasses covering his eyes, known to many as Aburame Shino. Shut up, Shino. Go be creepy and weird somewhere else. Sakura mocked weakly, fully aware that her skills weren't up to par in both throwing and hand-to-hand combat. Oh, shut up, forehead. If you scream too loudly, Sasuke-kun will leave us, replied another girl, her blonde ponytail reaching her back. This girl was Yamanaka Ino, the most popular girl at the academy, and was rightfully haughty as her title suggested. You shut your mouth and go snort somewhere, you know, pig. Sakura yelled back, quite annoyed with once again being made fun of because of her forehead. This was the scene that Rina thankfully walked out of as she made her way to the room that would hold part 3 of her final exam. She was very nervous. She would have to do the jutsus perfectly, but in a way that would still make her look like an idiot. What to do, she thought in her head as she opened the exam room door and stepped inside. Ah, hello, Rina-chan. It's so good to see you again, came an elderly-sounding voice that Rina knew by heart. Snapping her head to the side, she saw before her in a seiza position with a smile on his wrinkled face none other than the 3rd Hokage. Gigi, what are you doing here and where are the proctors? She asked happily, her violet eyes flashing with excitement and happiness at seeing her grandfather figure once again. Hiruzen chuckled at this before bidding her to stand before him, something she did readily. I am the proctor for the 3rd part of this test. Let's just say I had a small conversation with Naruto a few days ago. I am here to make sure that you don't act like a fool, like I know you have been and passed this exam without any funny business going on. Now then, shall we get to the test? We don't have a lot of time. Rina bobbed her head before waiting to be instructed on what to do. All right, first perform the henge no jutsu for me if you would. Rina nodded and flashed through the signs of dog, boar, ram, and gathering up her chakra easily transformed, a cloud of white smoke forming around her that settled moments later, eventually revealing her as a perfect replica of her older brother. When she released the jutsu, she heard a small applause coming from the Hokage. Oh, that is very good, Rina-chan. A perfect Naruto if I do say so myself. Now then, please perform the Kawarimi no jutsu for me. Just as before, but noticeably without the hand signs. Rina switched positions with the chair beside her and smiled up at the Hokage. Very well done. That's 2 down. Now for the last jutsu. Perform the Bunshin no jutsu if you will. Rina hesitated for a moment at this, raising her hand. Excuse me, Gigi, but Ni-san explained to me that I just have too much chakra to be able to do the technique. He instead showed me the Kage Bunshin no jutsu. The Hokage raised an eyebrow in surprise at that before smiling towards her. You know the Kage Bunshin no jutsu? Well then by all means use that instead. Nodding happily she crossed her fingers to form a T, and channeling chakra, a cloud of smoke formed around her. When it had cleared as before, there standing before the Hokage were 5 perfect clones surrounding Rina. That is most impressive indeed. You passed the 3rd part of the test with flying colors. Congratulations Rina-chan. The redhead beamed in happiness at the compliment. Dispelling her clones she then leapt towards the Hokage, offering him a hug, which he readily accepted. Thanks for doing this Gigi. It is no problem my dear girl. Now please send in the next person please. I believe it is Uchiha Sasuke. Rina scowled at the name before bowing to the old man and exiting the room. After informing Sasuke to go in and getting a malevolent sneer from the boy, Rina made her way over to the waiting area. There she sat, talking with Hinata before and after she had performed her own 3rd test, waiting for the scores to be posted. When they had both girls walked over and looked for their names. 4th from the top they both saw Hinata's name, but it took even less time to find Rina's name which was posted at the very bottom of the list, just as she and Naruto had planned it out. Smiling in triumph while ignoring the snickers and mocking words of the others around her, she placed her hands behind her head and made her way out of the academy, saying goodbye to Hinata as she did so. Rina moved through the front lawn of the academy, her mind wandering to unimportant subjects as she made her way out. She hoped all this was enough to get her on Sasuke's team. She didn't hate the boy personally, but she did hate his attitude. She remembered a time when he had been much nicer, almost carefree in his manner, but after the brutal massacre of nearly his entire family that innocent and relaxed little boy died. In his place was born an avenger whose sole goal in life was to get revenge and restore his clan if what she could read from his mood and words were any indication. Sighing, she realized that not she even officially on his team yet and he was annoying her. Grumbling to herself, she shook off any thoughts of Sasuke and went back to more important things like what type of ramen she was going to get at Ichiraku's. Completely at ease and humming softly to herself, it was at that moment that fate seemed to decide to spice things up a bit. Rina, hearing someone calling her name from behind her, turned about and eyed the man approaching her. He was a tall but relatively lean man, silver hair dropping down to his shoulders, and a face that appeared to show something she just could not identify. This man was Mizuki, assistant to Iruka who had been her sensei for the last few years of the academy. He had always given her that look as everyone else did, looking down at her and openly criticizing everything that she did. She disliked the man entirely. "Hello Mizuki-sensei. What are you doing here? Do you need something?" she asked as politely as possible. "Oh yes, I wanted to say congratulations for passing your genin test. I know it's been a tough few years, but as one of your teachers I'm glad to know you succeeded. Which reminds that I need to tell you something that your brother told me if you passed." Rina raised an eyebrow, thinking over if her brother had even talked with the man once before, but inwardly shrugging she asked, "And what is it he wanted you to say?" Mizuki grinned down at her, not a happy or carefree grin, but a grin that showed malice and contempt. "He said that when you pass your test he wanted to give you another one. He'll be watching, but won't interfere with this test. He wants you to sneak into the Hokage Tower using as much skill as possible and get out with the forbidden scroll he placed in the Hokage's office. After you have to make your way north and he'll meet you 3 miles outside of Konoha in a clearing to inform you if you passed." Smiling to herself, thinking that maybe this was what Naruto and the Hokage had been discussing in their meeting a few days ago, Rina nodded her head. "All right, I'll do it. Tonight, right?" Receiving a nod from Mizuki she turned around and began to walk away. "This test will be easy peasy." Bye Mizuki-sensei, and leaving behind a smirking Mizuki, disappeared around a bend in the road and was gone. Rina was panting heavily. Her limbs were on fire and she could barely walk let alone run. She had run nearly the entire time from start to finish for this test, which had started nearly 3 hours ago, and the exertion was finally getting to her. Setting the scroll down up against a tree she tried to catch her breath as best as possible. She was near where she had been told to go and wanted to look somewhat presentable to her brother and not look like she was half dead. After a few more minutes of deep and steady breathing, Rina grabbed the scroll and grunting as she took up the dead weight once more, sprinted lightly the last 2 minutes and entered the large clearing that she guessed marked the finish line for her. Standing there in the middle with his arms crossed tightly over his chest was Mizuki, a wide and rancorous look appearing on his face when he spotted her coming out of the underbrush. Moving over to him and placing the large scroll down on the ground, she peered up at him and asked, "Where's Ni-san?" Mizuki chuckled at the question and just shook his head. "Something came up and he couldn't make it, so he sent me instead." "Congratulations on passing the test. You passed with flying colors and I'm deeply impressed." Instead of the usual happy tone that one would use in this case, Mizuki's voice was filled with nothing but vile and acrimoniously toned words. "Now then, I'll be taking this," and moving to one knee reached for the scroll on the ground. Knowing how important the scroll was to Naruto, the many jutsus scythe and dating back to even the Shodai Hokage himself, Rina quickly snapped her hands forward and pulled the scroll into her arms. "I'll just take it home for Naruto, thank you. He wouldn't want anything to happen to it, Mizuki-sensei." She was getting a weird vibe from the man and it didn't sit well at all in her stomach. Mizuki sneered at that and reached for the scroll once again, Rina pulling away from his incoming hand and jumping back to put some distance in between their bodies. "Just give it here, Rina. Your brother told me he wanted to see the scroll afterwards so that he could put it back in his room where it belongs." Mizuki was only guessing there, but it made sense to keep a scroll with so much power in it close at hand if need be. It seemed to be the wrong thing to say though, and Rina instantly was on guard, her body language showing a more protective action as she turned her body slightly to the side due as to keep the scroll safe from harm with her own body. "Ni-san doesn't keep the scroll in his room. He never has," she said, making Mizuki curse his luck before throwing back his head and laughing, the sound filled with utmost malice and animosity. When he had finished his amusement-lacking laughter, he stared back down at her and sneered manically. "Oh, you sure are a smart one. Smarter than I thought. Yes, I tricked you. Your brother didn't make this test up, nor have I ever spoken with that man. Now, I will have that scroll and you will give it to me." His body tightening, he immediately lunged forward and with one arm cocked back, delivered a heavy blow to the side of Rina's head, sending her sprawling back and the scroll flying high into the air. Flipping up to catch it, he smirked as he settled on a branch high up in a tree overlooking the clearing, the scroll nestled in his bent arms. "Thank you, Rina, for delivering this to me. I couldn't have done it without you. But sadly I can't have any witnesses, and you being the only one, I'm going to kill you and take the scroll back to my master, Orochimaru. But before that I want to let you in on a little secret. A very big secret that all revolves around you." Rina scowled as she hefted herself back up, one hand moving to examine the spot where she had been punched, and winced when she felt a painful bump there that would surely bruise over later. Hearing his words about a secret, she guessed what he was about to say and inwardly sighed to herself. Wondering if she could use this situation to get the scroll back, she decided to play along, her voice filled with real pain as she asked, "What do you mean secret?" Mizuki laughed again. "Have you ever wondered why everyone calls you a demon? Why everyone seems to hate you? You've been lied to. They've all been lying to you your whole life, Rina. Since the decree 12 years ago." "What decree?" "Everyone knows by now. Iruka knows it, the Hokage knows it. Even your own damn brother knows it, and I'm sure he'd do anything to make me shut up and not tell you this, haha. The decree is no one can tell you that the Kyuubi is inside you." Rina blinked up at the man and, feigning surprise, shook her head in denial, causing Mizuki to continue. "The fox spirit that killed your parents and destroyed our village has taken over your body. You are the Kyuubi. This is why you've been treated like dirt since you were born. They all hated you for just even being alive. Your brother most of all." Whimpering and beginning a limp-like gait towards Mizuki, Rina scowled beneath the hair that covered her face. How dare this man say that about her brother? He loved her to the ends of the earth and back. He had always been there for her, and she would make Mizuki pay for saying such vile lies. Stopping just short of the tree, she looked up at him, the hair covering everything but one lone eye. What surprised Mizuki here was that her eyes showed neither sadness nor self-pity. All he saw in those dull violet eyes was an inner fire that clearly expressed her anger. It wasn't anger for herself, but one directed solely at him. "I already know I have the damn Kyuubi in me, you prick." She yelled at him suddenly before charging up the side of the tree, using bursts of chakra in each step to push her body up even faster. Drawing a kunai from her one lone pouch, she attempted an uppercut, the point of the blade narrowly missing Mizuki's chin as he jerked his body back at the last moment, getting over his initial surprise in order to avoid getting himself killed. Sneering at her, he punched out, hitting the girl square in the gut and sent her flying backwards. Rina bounced a few times as she hit the ground, and there she lay, groaning from falling nearly 30 feet along with trying to regain her lost breath. Reaching out behind him, Mizuki withdrew a large Fuma shuriken from his back. Scowling down at her said, "I bet if I stayed I would be praised as a hero for this. Die you fucking demon. Rot in hell." And with that he jerked his arm forward, sending the shuriken whizzing towards the downed Rina. Rina watched on, her unresponsive. Knowing she wouldn't be able to dodge this, she prepared for the hit she surely knew would come, her eyes closing with her arms over her head. Yet the hit never came. Among the whirling sound of the shuriken as it drew near there was a loud whizzing and then the loud ping of metal hitting metal. Her body in a daze and wondering why she hadn't been hit, Rina removed her arms from her face and opened her eyes, gasping at the sight before her. There standing in all his glory, his dark red and black trimmed haori waving out behind him, his long blonde hair cascading out to the side, was none other than her brother standing before her. She couldn't see his face, but the body language he exuded proved to Rina that he was completely and royally pissed off. Struggling to her feet but failing miserably, all Rina could say was, "Ni-san." Naruto turned his head, offering Rina only his right eye as he looked at her carefully. "Rina, are you hurt?" Rina smiled up at him warmly before nodding his head, "Yeah. Mizuki Teme hurt me and was just about to kill me before you showed up." "I see." And Naruto turned his head back towards Mizuki, who was showing the obvious signs of one who was scared shitless and knew their life was forfeit. "Mizuki, you're dead," and Naruto was about to launch himself at the man until his sister's warning held him in check. "Ni-san, wait." He said something about Orochimaru being his master. "Maybe you should capture him first." Rina knew all about the great Sannin upon close relations with two of them as well as reading about them in books. She knew who Orochimaru was and how dangerous the man could be. "Is that right? Well, Mizuki, it looks like you'll live for a bit longer. Count yourself lucky and thank my sister. I am not scared of you. I'll beat you and then become powerful just like Orochimaru-sama told me." "You won't capture me." Mizuki launched himself at Naruto, a kunai in each hand. Naruto merely sighed at the attempt and shook his head at the man's folly. It all happened so fast to Rina as she stared at the scene before her. One moment Naruto was just there and then the next he was in front of Mizuki, a regular kunai drawn and buried to the hilt in the man's stomach. Mizuki hadn't known what had hit him. He hadn't even seen the blonde man move, and then all of a sudden there was an explosion of pain in his stomach, a fire that just wouldn't go out. Coughing up blood, Mizuki hunched over towards Naruto, who of course stepped back and out of the way, letting the man fall face down into the ground. Holding back the desire to kill the man for hurting his sister, Naruto simply hit Mizuki on the back of his neck with the side of his hand, putting him out of his painful misery for the time being. Pursing his lips, he gave a shrill whistle which was answered instantly by the flashing forms of 4 Anbu members. "Make sure he gets back to TI. He has possible information on Orochimaru that needs to be extracted. Oh, and tell Ibiki that he has my permission to do what he likes with him. There should be no holding back with this one." Scowling down at the figure, Naruto walked over Rina after picking up the discarded scroll. Crouching down, he grabbed her hand and gingerly lifted her up onto her feet. "Are you injured?" Rina shook her head and smiled up at her older brother. "No. Not really. There's just gonna be some bruises, that's all." Nodding his head in acceptance, Naruto scooped her up in his arms bridal style much to his sister's chagrin and hopped up onto the nearest large tree branch, beginning the short trek home through the trees. "You didn't have to carry me, I could have walked home," said Rina with a half-protest since she hadn't really desired to walk the 3 miles back. Naruto chuckled, "I know, but it's the duty of a brother to annoy his sister, and I thought now would be the time for it since you got into so much trouble." Rina yawned and, not bothering to argue with him since she really did not have the strength at all to do so, simply curled up tighter into his embrace, pressing the side of her head into his strong chest and drifted off into a light sleep. "Hokage-sama, are you really not going to do anything about this? The girl should be punished for what she did," cried a man with the jacket of a Junin. Many of those around him seemed to agree, showing their support with vigorous nods of their heads. "Why should I? It's not like we lost the scroll, and from what I can see it was all Mizuki that caused this. He simply tricked young Rina into believing this was one of Naruto's tests that he sometimes concocts. I'm sure you are all aware how some of those tests can be. There was a low rumble of amusement from many of the people standing in the packed Hokage office. There is no reason to punish the girl, and I will not allow it. A tall woman with the matching jacket of the many around her stepped forward asking, Hokage-sama, how did Rina get the forbidden scroll? Shouldn't it have been locked up to keep it out of the hands of a person like Mizuki? Hiruzen smiled before shaking his head. It should have been, but as Naruto was so kind as to let me look over a jutsu from the scroll, it had been in my office when I went to the council meeting a few hours ago. That reminds me, I should return it to him before the night is out. Now then, I think the crisis has been diverted and all is well once again in the world. You may all return home and rest easy. And everyone did just that, none resting easier than the red-haired girl snuggled up under her blankets after a long and stress-filled day. A few days later the conference room was packed to the brink. There were countless Junin there, all huddled up into groups as they chatted away with friends and co-workers. Many were wondering why they were there, while some knew the exact reason and kept it a secret lest they ruin whatever the Hokage had to say in calling this meeting. One such group stood together, 3 men and 1 woman, pressed compactly together so as to be heard over the din of those around them. One man, a dark and full beard covering his jawline, a cigarette locked in between his lips, and a body exhibiting the strength of a bear, was talking excitedly with another man with whom had his hot eye tied backwards as that of a bandana and a wooden senbon sticking out of his mouth. The other man, dressed in a solid green latex jumpsuit, was vividly talking about how youthful his female partner was for finally making Junin after so long. For her part, she just smiled at the compliment, barely knowing what the bowl-cut-haired man was talking about, and inwardly scowling at having been stuck speaking with him. Curse Asuma and Genma, she thought as she tried in vain to get out of conversing with Guy in the nicest way possible. It was then that the large oak wood doors opened. Moving through the entrance with his hands clasped tightly behind his back and flanked by 2 of his advisors, the Hokage entered the room and the chatter within immediately ceased. Walking purposely to the raised platform at the front of the room, the 3rd Hokage sat down in a seiza position on his pillow, matching the many others that littered the ground throughout the conference room. Following his lead, all the room's occupants mimicked their Hokage and all stared up at him as they waited for him to speak. Thank you for all coming here today. Today is a great day for the village, for yet again the time has come for new genin to be introduced into the shinobi world and new instructors to be selected to teach these young children. I will not force any of you to step forward, but I feel it would be an honor for many of you to pass on what you know down to the next generation. So without further ado, I will ask those that wish to become Junin instructors to please step forward and say your names so that I may record them. It was here where Hiruzen snapped his fingers and Kaharu moved forward, an elegant quill in hand in which she handed to her Hokage before stepping back. Hiruzen prepared the quill's tip with ink and, brushing away any drop, peered down at the crowd assembled and waited for any volunteers. 8 figures stood, 3 of these being Genma, Asuma, and Kurenai, who said their names aloud as indication they wished to become instructors for the next batch of genin. Carefully writing each name down, Hiruzen then nodded to them all, silently requesting them to sit back down. All right then, this should work out perfectly. We have 9 instructors and exactly 27 possible genin. Thank you all for volunteering, and I am sure you will all enjoy your time together if your teams pass. This statement piqued everyone's interest, for they knew that only 8 people had stood to be recognized. Excuse me, Hokage-sama, but who is this 9th person? Asked Kurenai, quite curious as to whom this 9th individual might be. Ah, well, I believe he is running a little late after dealing with a few things, but... And the Hokage stopped when a bright yellow light flashed beside him. The light dissipated as soon as it began, and there standing beside the Hokage was none other than Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto, his arms crossed over his chest with a small smirk gracing his lips. Ah, there you are, Naruto-kun. So nice of you to join us. Did you handle the situation you were dealing with? Yes, I did, Hokage-sama, thank you. Hiruzen smiled. Very good. I was just finishing up recording the names of the other instructors that will be accepting the position of instructors this time around. When everyone heard their Hokage say, "other," all eyes within the room, besides the notable exception of the Hokage, his 2 advisors, and of course Naruto, went wide with shock and surprise, staring straight at Naruto. Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto, An S-rank shinobi with enormous skill that was said to match any of the great Sannin and in whom the third Hokage had announced was to be his successor so long as a certain condition they had made was met. Was becoming an instructor to a team of genin? The news was so shocking that many had their mouths wide open and a senbon and cigarette dropped to the ground beside Genma and Asuma respectively. This is gonna be fun I think, Naruto said and gave the crowd before him one of his foxy grins that made many of the females within the room blush, Kurenai included. I hope so as well. Now Naruto, will you please take a seat so that we can continue with our meeting? I know you have things to do so I will try to make this short. Receiving a bow of thanks from Naruto for that, the blonde searched the room for an empty pillow and noticing one beside Kurenai, he made his way over and sat down in the same position as the rest of them. Kurenai watched him and when he took notice of her stare offered him a smile and nod. It's surprising that you're actually becoming an instructor Naruto. I thought your talents would be better spent somewhere else. Naruto turned his head to look at her before chuckling. Let's just say the Hokage knows how to drive a hard bargain. There are a few special conditions that were made for me to take this position that benefits all parties. Plus I think it'll be fun. I'm great with kids or so I believe. Kurenai lightly chuckled as well, the sound having an obvious female influence compared to Naruto's much deeper tone. Very well. I am glad to be working with you. Perhaps all the new instructors can get a quick bite to eat after this to discuss a few things? Nodding his head Naruto responded, of course. That would be nice. After this meeting then. With that the two stopped their conversation and paid attention to the Hokage, the meeting lasting for a little over 30 minutes before they were finally let out much to everyone's relief. From there, most of the volunteers who were not already busy decided to accept the lunch invitation and meet at the Yukiniki Q. There they had some delicious barbecue food and discussed the future of their possible teams.